I've worked the night shift at the cemetery for almost 6 years. I've seen all kinds of funerals. Some are loud, some are quiet, but I've never seen one like this. It happened last Tuesday. My boss called me around noon and said, "There's a burial tonight. No service, no visitors, just a casket. Make sure it's in the ground before 9. That was it. No name, no details. Just an order. When I showed up at 6, the grave was already dug. I didn't do it. That was strange. Usually, I handled that too. The hole was too clean, too perfect, like it was done by a machine. The coffin was already there too. Plain wood, no flowers, no funeral car. Just sitting beside the open grave like someone dropped it off and left. I checked the tag on the casket. It just said, burial -7/14. Do not delay. There was no name, no birth date. Nothing else that made me feel weird, like something was wrong. I radioed my boss. "Hey, are you sure about this burial? There's no one here. No paperwork either." He just said, "Do your job. Dig, drop, cover. Don't ask questions." Fine, I've buried strangers before, but usually someone cries, says goodbye, prays. This time, it was just me and a box. I waited around for a while, thinking maybe someone would show up late, but no one came, not even a priest. At about 8:30, I gave up. The light was fading, and I didn't want to work in the dark. So I backed up the small lift, strapped the casket in, and lowered it into the hole. But as it touched the bottom, I felt this chill. Not like cold air. It was more like something heavy pressing on my chest. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. Like something was watching me. I looked around. Nothing but graves and trees. Still, I felt it. That pressure, that feeling. I grabbed the shovel and started covering the box with dirt. Shovelful after shovelful. The sound of dirt hitting the wood made my skin crawl. Thump, thump. I tried to work faster, just wanting it done. But the more I buried it, the worse I felt. Like I was doing something wrong. Like I was sealing something in that wanted to get out. I even stopped for a second and asked out loud, "Who are you?" No answer, of course. Just silence. Still, I kept going. By 8:55, the grave was filled. I patted it down, cleaned up my tools, and turned to leave. That's when I noticed something strange. A new headstone was already in place. I didn't put it there. No one did while I was working. But now it stood tall at the head of the grave. Smooth grey stone. There was no name on it, just the date, 7/14, same as the tag, same as today. I stared at it for a long time, then I left. I didn't tell anyone about the headstone. I figured maybe it was placed earlier and I just didn't notice, but something about that night stayed with me. It didn't feel like I'd buried a person. It felt like I locked something underground, and whatever it was, I think it's still awake. I stayed late that night. Even after I finished covering the grave, I couldn't leave. Something didn't feel right. It wasn't just a weird tag on the coffin, or the empty funeral, or the nameless headstone. It was the feeling that I wasn't alone. I stood by the grave with my shovel still in hand. My chest felt tight. My skin itched like something was crawling under it. I kept glancing around the cemetery, expecting to see someone, anyone. That's when I saw him. A man was standing by the front gate. He was far away, but I could tell he was tall. He wore a dark coat. Could have been black, could have been grey. Hard to tell under the floodlight. but his face. I couldn't see it. He was standing too still, just standing, staring in my direction. Not walking, not moving, not making a sound. At first, I thought he might be security or someone lost. So I called out, "Hey, you okay?" He didn't answer. "The cemetery's closed," I said, louder. "You need something." Still nothing. He didn't even flinch, just stared. I took a few steps toward him. I wasn't trying to be brave. I just didn't like the way he was watching. But then something stopped me. I noticed something weird. The floodlight above the gate was bright. It should have cast shadows behind anything standing there. But this man had no shadow. I squinted, looked again, moved to the side to check the angle, still nothing. The light hit him, but there was no shape behind him on the ground. It was like the light didn't touch him at all. My mouth went dry. I took a step back. I didn't say anything else. I just stood there, staring at him. I thought maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. Maybe it was a statue, or someone standing behind a pole. But no, he was real, and he was watching me then. I blinked just for a second, and he was gone, vanished. No footsteps, no noise, just gone. I walked toward the gate to check, but there was no one there. I even opened the gate and looked down the road. Nothing, no car, no people, no signs that anyone had been standing there. I stood by the gate for a while, breathing hard, trying to tell myself it was my mind messing with me. Maybe the light played tricks. Maybe he walked off when I blinked. But I didn't believe that. Something about him didn't feel normal. The way he stared, the way he didn't move, the way he had no shadow. I walked back toward the grave, fast. I packed up my tools and locked the shed. Then I left. I didn't tell my boss. I didn't mention it to anyone, because I wasn't sure what I saw. But the next night, I looked at the gate again, and I swear, I saw him there just for a second. And just like before, no shadow. I couldn't sleep that night. I don't know why. Maybe it was the man with no shadow. Maybe it was the empty funeral. Maybe it was just my nerves. At around 1 a.m., I got up, put on my jacket, and drove back to the cemetery. I told myself I was just checking the gate, making sure no one broke in. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the reason. I had this strange pull, like something wanted me back there. When I got to the cemetery, everything looked normal. Gate closed. No one around. Same old rows of headstones. I walked toward the grave I had filled earlier. Nothing seemed wrong at first, but as I stepped closer, I heard something, a sound, low, faint, like a voice. I stopped walking, tilted my head. It was coming from the ground. I knelt down beside the grave, pressed my ear close to the dirt. I didn't want to believe it, but I heard it again. A whisper. It was soft, like someone was talking through a wall. I couldn't make out the words at first, just breathy sounds. I pulled back fast, stood up. My heart was racing. "No," I said out loud. "No one's in there. I buried it. It's done." But then the whisper got louder and clearer. "Help," one word. Like a weak voice under the soil, I backed away. "Is this a prank?" I shouted. "Who's there?" No answer, just silence. I waited, watched. I didn't move for a full minute. Then the whisper came back. "Please, let me out." It was a man's voice, shaky, broken. I looked at the grave again. It hadn't changed. No fresh digging, no open hole, just packed dirt. The stone still red. 7/14. I didn't know what to do. I crouched beside the grave again, put my ear close to the ground. That's when the whisper turned into sobbing, deep, painful crying, like someone trapped, like they knew no one was coming for them. I jumped back. "You're not real," I said. "You're not real." But the crying didn't stop. It got louder. "Please, please." I stood there, frozen. My hands were shaking. Part of me wanted to dig, to open the grave, to see if someone was really down there. But another part of me, the smarter part, told me to walk away, because whatever was making that sound, it wasn't right. I took a few steps back, and then, just like that silence, no whisper, no crying, nothing. I stood alone under the graveyard light, staring at the dirt. I didn't dig it up. I didn't call anyone. I turned and walked away as fast as I could. But as I left, I heard one last thing, soft, behind me. A whisper, close. To my ear, but no one was there. "You buried me alive." The next day, I went into the cemetery office. I couldn't stop thinking about that grave. The whispers, the crying, the voice that said, "I buried him alive." I had to check the records. There's a big book in the back room. We call it the ledger. It holds every name, every burial, every date. Nothing gets skipped. Every grave has a spot in that book. I opened it up and flipped to the most recent entries, row after row. Everything looked normal. Then I found it. Plot 87C. The same spot. I buried the coffin 2 nights ago, but something was wrong. The name was missing. Not just blank, scratched out. Like someone wrote it, then tried to erase it with a knife. The ink was smeared, and there were lines torn through the paper. I could barely make out the first letter. Maybe an M, May, not dot. No birth date, no death date, no family name, just one note, written in red ink. "Do not open." I stared at those 3 words for a long time. Most burial notes say things like family request, no flowers or casket sealed. Simple stuff. I'd never seen anything like this. I checked the column for the burial ID number. It said, number 003196Z. I opened the file drawer and looked for that number. Each file has a tag. I flipped through all of them. 003193, 003194, 003195. Then it jumped to 003197 nu 003 mu. I 196Z. I checked again, nothing, no folder. No paper, no digital copy either. I even tried the old computer in the corner, typed the number into the system, no record found. I leaned back in the chair. My hands were cold. How can someone be buried here with no name, no file, and a warning in red ink? I took a photo of the ledger page with my phone, just in case. Then I sat there for a while, just staring at the scratched out name. I started thinking, what if no one was supposed to be buried in that grave? What if I wasn't supposed to put the box in the ground? And why did they tell me not to open it? I remembered something else too. When I asked my boss about the burial, he brushed it off, told me not to ask questions. I pulled out my phone and texted him again, me, who ordered the 87C burial. The file's missing. Boss, don't worry about it. Me, there's no record, no name, just a warning. Boss, seriously, let it go. That was all he said. No explanation, no details, just let it go. But I couldn't. That grave wasn't right. And whatever I buried, I was starting to think it wasn't dead. I couldn't stay home that night. After seeing the scratched out name in the ledger, after reading that red note that said "Do not open," my mind wouldn't stop spinning. At midnight, I grabbed my flashlight and went back to the cemetery. I parked outside the gate and walked in alone. No sound, no wind. Just me and the crunch of gravel under my boots. I went straight to plot 87C. That's when I stopped cold. The grave looked wrong. The soil was disturbed, like it had been pushed up from the inside. The dirt wasn't flat anymore. It was raised. In the middle, cracked open in spots. I saw pieces of grass torn out. One side of the grave looked lower than the other, like it had caved in. My stomach dropped. I took a step closer, shined my flashlight over it. No tools, no digging equipment, just broken soil, like something had moved beneath it or through it. I walked around the grave slowly, checking everything. That's when I saw them footprints, big ones, like heavy work boots. They started right at the edge of the grave, not walking to it, but away from it, like someone had climbed out. The prints were deep, fresh, wet with mud. I followed them. They went about 10 feet across the grass, then suddenly stopped. No turn, no end, just gone. 1 second they were there, full tread marks in the dirt, and then nothing, like the person just vanished. I crouched down and looked close. No drag marks, no sign of someone hopping or stepping off the path, just empty space. My heart was pounding. I stood up and looked around, waved my flashlight in every direction. "Hello," I said. "Is someone out here?" No answer. Then I saw something else, lying in the grass, just a few feet from where the footprints ended, was a glove. I walked over slowly. It was a thick, muddy glove, the kind someone might wear to dig. Brown leather, stained with black spots. The fingers were stiff. One looked torn. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it. That glove hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. I knew this path. I worked this ground every day. If that glove had been there earlier, I would have seen it. I looked back toward the grave. I counted the footprints again. 1 set. Leading away, none coming in. No, I whispered to myself. No way. I was shaking. Something had climbed out of that grave. It left the footprints. It dropped the glove. And then it disappeared. I wanted to leave. My whole body told me to. Turn and run. But I couldn't move. Not yet. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't over. I knew something had gotten out, and I wasn't sure it was done with me. The next morning, I went back to the office. I needed to see the security footage. There are 4 cameras around the cemetery. One of them points near plot 87C. The others face the gates and the paths. We don't check the footage often, but I knew it recorded every night. I opened the computer and clicked through the files. I went straight to the time I was out there, midnight to around 1 a.m. at first. I didn't see anything strange. The grave looked the same on the screen as it did in person, raised dirt, broken grass. But then, at exactly 12:17 a.m., something changed. A figure walked into the frame. It was him, the man from the gate. Same long coat, same still posture. He stood at the edge of the grave and didn't move. No walking, no pacing, just standing there, staring at the dirt. I leaned closer to the screen. He didn't have a flashlight, no tools, no shovel, just his hands in his coat pockets and no shadow. Even with the camera's night vision, I could see the ground behind him, flat and empty. The light should have cast something, but there was nothing there. No outline, no shape, just nothing. He stayed there for 3 hours, didn't move, didn't turn his head, just stared down into the grave. I fast-forwarded the video to make sure. Every second, he was still. Not even a twitch dot then. At exactly 3:17 a.m., he looked up, right at the camera. I froze. There's no way he could have seen it. The camera is high on a pole and hidden in the corner of the tool shed. No blinking light, no sound. But he knew his face was blurry on the screen. Like the lens couldn't focus on it, but his eyes, I could see them, wide open, staring right into mine. Then the video, glitched. The screen flickered. Lines ran across the picture. The feed turned to static. I backed away from the desk. No, I whispered. No, no, no. I clicked the file again, reopened it. Same thing. As soon as he looked up, the video cut out. No more footage after that. Just a black screen. I checked the other cameras. Same thing at 3:17. They all stopped. No files for the rest of the night. It's like he shut them off just by looking at them. I sat there in the office, staring at the frozen screen. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know where he came from, but I was sure of one thing now. He wasn't just watching the grave. He was watching me. Teeth. I hadn't slept in 2 nights. I couldn't eat, couldn't think straight. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the grave. I saw the man with no shadow. I heard the whispers. I had to do something, so I went back. I told myself I was just going to fix the grave. Just fix the dirt. Make it look normal again. That was all. Nothing strange. Just part of the job. It was almost midnight again when I got there. I parked my truck by the shed and grabbed a shovel. The grave was still a mess. The soil looked like it had been kicked from below. The edges were cracked. The headstone was crooked. I didn't even look around this time. I didn't want to see if he was watching again. I walked up to the edge of the grave, stuck the shovel in, started digging. Just a little, just enough to flatten it out and repack the top. But something felt soft, too soft, like the dirt wasn't. Packed right underneath, like it was hollow. I pressed down with my boot. The ground caved in fast. I didn't even have time to yell. The dirt under me gave way, and I dropped straight down. My body hit something hard, then wet. I landed in a tight space, coffin-sized, but it wasn't empty. There was something in there with me, something soft and warm. Breathing, I couldn't see much, but my flashlight had fallen in with me. It rolled to the side, barely lit, flickering. I looked around. The walls were lined with wet, rotting wood. I could smell something awful, like mold and old meat. Then I felt it, fingers, long, thin fingers wrapped around my arm. They squeezed. Tight. I screamed and tried to pull away, but the grip was strong. Too strong? Let go. I yelled, no answer. Just breathing, right in front of my face. I couldn't see who or what it was. Just the sound of breath and the feel of skin. Cold, but not dead. I reached for the shovel. Couldn't find it. The fingers moved up my arm, grabbing tighter, like they were trying to pull me closer. Then something spoke. Not out loud, inside. My head, a voice. Low, dry, familiar. You buried me. I screamed again. I kicked, twisted, did. Everything I could. Finally, I got my arm free and slammed my elbow into the wood. It cracked. Dirt poured in. I clawed at the wall, digging at the dirt. Trying to crawl up, the flashlight went out. Total black. I didn't care. I kept climbing, scratching, pushing. The dirt started to fall around me, loose and heavy. It filled my mouth, got in my eyes, but I didn't stop. I had to get out. Then somehow I reached the edge. I grabbed the grass and pulled myself up. I rolled out of the hole, coughing and choking. My whole body was shaking. My clothes were soaked. My arm was bruised where it grabbed me. I lay there, staring up at the sky. I didn't look back into the grave. I didn't want to see what was still down there. I opened my eyes. I was lying on the grass next to the grave. At first I thought it was a dream. That fall, the thing grabbing me, the voice in my head, it couldn't be real. But then I sat up, and something felt off. My clothes were dry, not dirty, not wet, no mud, no scratches, nothing. But I remembered the dirt. I remembered choking on it, clawing my way out. I checked my arm. There were bruises, dark ones, shaped like fingers. I stood up slowly. The grave was closed, completely sealed, like no one had touched it. The dirt was flat. The grass was back in place. Even the headstone looked straight again. I looked around, confused. My shovel was gone. My flashlight too. I pulled out my phone to check the time. 3:47 a.m. That didn't make sense. The last time I looked at the clock, it was just past midnight. That means I'd been lying there for over 3 hours. I didn't remember falling asleep. I didn't remember getting out of the hole, but I remembered being in it. And I remembered something else. The voice, "You buried me." My heart was racing. I backed away from the grave. Then I saw him at the gate. The same man, long coat, standing still. No shadow, just like before. Only this time, I knew he wasn't just watching. He had done something to me. I stared at him. He didn't move. He just stood there, and even though we were far apart, I swear he was smiling. I went back the next day. I told myself it was just to make sure everything was okay. That maybe I was just tired, or sick, or losing my mind. But deep down, I knew something had changed. The cemetery looked normal in daylight. Calm, clean. No sign of what happened last night. No sign of the hole I fell into. No footprints, no glove, nothing. But as I walked toward plot 87C, I stopped. The headstone had changed. Before, it was blank. Just the date, 7/14. No name, no words. Now, there was a name, my name, first and last, spelled exactly right, and below it, the date of death. Yesterday, I felt like the ground dropped out from under me. I stared at the stone, frozen. I read it again, my name, yesterday's date. I looked around fast, like someone might be playing a prank. Maybe one of the guys swapped it while I wasn't looking, but no one was there. I walked up to the grave, knees shaking. I touched the stone with my hand. It was real, carved deep into the stone. Not painted, not taped, carved. "No," I whispered. "This can't be right." I stepped back. I was breathing hard. Then I heard it, the whisper. But this time, it wasn't from under the ground. It was inside my head, soft, calm, close. "You buried the wrong man," I froze. "Who are you?" I said, out loud. No answer, just silence. I turned and walked away fast. I didn't look back. But as I passed each row of graves, I started to notice something else. Some of the names on the headstones looked familiar, too familiar. I saw one with the name of my old neighbor, one that matched a friend from school, another that looked like my mother's maiden name. Each one sent a chill through me. I didn't stop to check them all. I just kept walking, and the whisper came again. "You shouldn't have buried me." I covered my ears. I shook my head. "You're not real," I shouted, but I knew that wasn't true anymore. Whatever I put in that grave, it wasn't dead, and now it wanted me to take its place. The grave I visited had my name on it. With tomorrow's date, gravestones usually marked the past, but this one showed a name and a date that hadn't happened yet. His name, tomorrow's date. I go to the old cemetery a lot. No, that sounds weird, but it's quiet there, peaceful. No traffic, no people, no noise, just stone paths and trees. I've been walking there for years. It's about a 10-minute walk from my house. I go in the evenings, after work. Sometimes I just walk. Sometimes I sit on one of the benches and think. I don't know when the habit started. I guess I liked how still everything felt. Time kind of stops there, but this time felt different. The second I walked through the front gate, I knew something was off. The path looked strange. It felt too long, like the rows of graves had moved or stretched out. I took a few steps, then stopped. The trees looked taller. The air was thick, heavy. I don't know how to explain it. It felt like walking into a room where something bad just happened, but no one talks about it. I kept going anyway. I told myself it was just my mood, or maybe the weather. But with every step, I felt more out of place. I passed graves I didn't remember seeing before. New names, old ones. A few stones looked broken, like they'd been there forever. But I could have sworn they were new. I took my usual path toward the far corner of the cemetery. That part is quietest. No fresh burials, no flowers, just old, forgotten stones. As I walked, I started to feel watched. I kept glancing over my shoulder, but no one was there. Just rows of graves and empty air. Then I saw it at the far end, near the back fence, was a headstone I'd never noticed before. It was small, grey, nothing special, but I walk this path every week. I know what's there. This grave hadn't been there yesterday. I stepped off the path and walked toward it. The grass around it was flat, like someone had walked there recently. But the grave didn't look new. The stone was dusty, a little chipped. I knelt down to read it. There was no name, no flowers, no sign anyone had visited. Just one line, and when I read it, I froze. It said, "Waiting." That was it. No birth date, no death date. Just that one word, carved deep into the stone. I stared at it for a long time. My hands started to sweat. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. But when I looked at the screen, there was nothing there. The photo showed empty grass, No stone, no writing. I blinked, looked back at the grave. Still there, same word. Waiting. I stood up fast and backed away. I didn't run, but I walked quicker than usual back to the gate. I kept telling myself it was just a weird stone, maybe a broken one, maybe a joke, someone carved, nothing to worry about. But I didn't go back the next day, or the day after that, because the feeling stayed with me, that word waiting, like it wasn't just a message, like it was a warning. I don't know why, but I went back 3 days after I saw that strange grave, the one that just said waiting. I found myself walking the same path again. I didn't plan to. I just ended up there. Same route, same corner of the cemetery, same weird feeling in the air. And that grave was still there. Only now something had changed. The stone looked cleaner, like someone had wiped it off. There was fresh dirt around the base, like it had been dug up and put back. I walked over slowly. My legs felt heavy this time. I saw something written on the stone. It wasn't just one word anymore. It had a name, my name, first name, middle, last, exactly how it appears on my license, my bank card, everything. I froze. I couldn't breathe. I thought maybe I was seeing it wrong. Maybe my brain was tricking me. But no, it was right there. Deep cuts in the stone. Not fresh, not new, like it had been there for years. I stepped closer and saw the date under my name. Tomorrow, that's what it said. Date of death, tomorrow's date. Not next month. Not 100 years ago. Tomorrow, I started laughing, a nervous, shaky kind of laugh. It had to be a joke, a prank, someone messing with me. But who would go through all this trouble? Who would know my full name? My date of birth? Why would anyone do this? I pulled out my phone and took a picture. Then I checked the photo. Nothing, just grass, no stone, no name, no writing. I looked back at the grave. Still there. I took another picture. Same result. I switched to video. Pressed record. Held my phone steady. Walked around the stone. Said my name out loud. When I played the video back, it was just wind. No stone, no grave, no sound. I felt sick. I looked up. The grave was gone, gone, gone. I blinked hard. Looked around. I was standing in a patch of flat grass. No stone, no dirt, no sign anything had ever been there. I spun around in circles, trying to find it. Walked a few feet in every direction. Nothing. I checked my phone again. Now even the grass in the photo looked different. Too clean. Too smooth. Like I had never been there. Like none of it ever happened. But I remembered what I saw. My name, tomorrow. And in that moment, something hit me. What if the date wasn't a mistake? What if the stone wasn't a joke? What if I really had just found my own grave? After I saw the grave with my name on it, I went straight home. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't even take off my shoes. I just sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the wall. I kept saying the same thing to myself. It's not real. It's not real. Someone's messing with me. But deep down, I wasn't so sure. The next day, I tried to act normal. I went to work like usual. I needed to keep my mind busy. Maybe the grave was just a weird dream. Maybe I imagined the whole thing. At work, I said hi to my co-worker, Jason. I see him almost every day. We've worked in the same office for over 2 years. He looked at me, confused. "Sorry, can I help you?" I laughed, thinking he was joking. "Very funny," I said. "It's me. You all right?" He kept staring. "Do we know each other?" he asked. My smile dropped. "It's me," I said. "We sit 3 desks apart. You literally borrowed my charger last week." He shook his head slowly. "I think you've got the wrong person, man." I didn't know what to say. I just walked away. I sat at my desk, but it didn't feel like mine. The screen was off. My nameplate was gone. My coffee mug, the one I always used, was missing. I checked my emails. My inbox was empty. No messages, no history, nothing. I logged into the system. It asked me to make a new password, like I had never used it before. I stood up, walked over to another coworker, Lisa. "Hey," I said. "Do I look different to you?" She blinked. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" My chest got tight. "It's me. We worked the night shift together. Last month, remember the leak in the ceiling?" She stared at me like I was crazy. "I think you have the wrong person." I didn't say another word. I grabbed my bag and left. At home, I ran to the mirror. At first, I looked fine. Same hair, same face. But the longer I stared, the more things felt wrong. My eyes looked duller. My skin looked pale, almost grey. My lips were cracked. My neck had a dark bruise I didn't remember getting. I leaned closer. My reflection blinked, but I didn't. I froze. I stared into the mirror. I raised my hand, so did it. I tilted my head, so did it. But when I blinked again, the reflection didn't. It just smiled. A tiny, slow smile that I swear I didn't make. I stepped back fast, heart racing. No, that's not me," I said. I grabbed a towel and threw it over the mirror. I sat on the floor, breathing heavy, thinking something was wrong. Not just with the grave, with me. People didn't remember me. My reflection wasn't right, and I started to wonder. Had something already changed? Had I already started to disappear? I couldn't let it go. Not the grave, not the date, not the way people were forgetting me. I needed proof, something real, something on paper that showed I wasn't going crazy. So, I went to the cemetery office. It was an old white building with a squeaky door and dusty windows. I'd been there once or twice before, just to ask questions or look at old maps. The woman at the front desk looked half asleep. "Hi," I said. "I need to check a grave. I think it might be listed wrong." She raised an eyebrow. "What's the name? Mine." She blinked. "Excuse me. I found a headstone with my name on it. I need to know who ordered it, or when it was placed." She looked uncomfortable. "What's your full name?" she asked. I gave it to her, slowly spelling it out just to be sure. She typed it into the computer. Her eyes narrowed. "Huh, what?" I asked. "You have a file." That made my stomach twist. A death file. She didn't answer, just stood up and walked into the back room. She came out a minute later, holding a thin manila folder. It had my name written on the front in black marker. My handwriting. I swear, it looked like my handwriting. She handed it to me. I opened it. There were no papers inside, just a single sheet. It was a blank death certificate. No cause of death, no family info, no date. Only one thing was filled in. The grave number. I recognized it. The same part of the cemetery. The same spot where I saw the headstone. And there was a sticky note on the top corner. Yellow, bent at the edge, it said. Pending, not to be filled early. I stared at it. Who wrote this?" I asked. She shrugged. "I don't know. It's just in the system. Says the burial's already scheduled." "Scheduled by who?" "Doesn't say." I held up the folder. "Can I keep this?" She hesitated. "Technically no, but I didn't see anything." I walked out with it in my hands. I sat in my car and stared at the folder for a long time. It had my name, my grave location, a blank death form, and a warning not to be filled early. That meant someone expected it to be filled soon, like they were just waiting. Like they already knew when I'd die. And I was starting to think that date on the headstone wasn't a mistake. It was a countdown. I didn't plan on going back to the cemetery, but around sunset, I found myself walking there again. My legs moved on their own, like they knew the way. My head kept saying, "Don't go back," but my body didn't listen. I didn't go all the way in this time. I stopped near the old black fence, just stood there, staring through the bars. That's when I heard him. "You saw it, didn't you?" The voice came from my right. An old man stood there, maybe in his 60s. He wore a faded grey coat and a brown hat pulled low over his face. I hadn't seen him walk up. He was just there. "What?" I asked. "The grave," he said. "With your name." I froze. "How do you know about that?" He smiled, not a kind smile, not mean either, just tired. "Because it happened to me too," he said. "You're saying you saw your own grave?" He nodded. Double quote, 30 years ago. Different stone, same message. "What happened?" I asked. He looked at me for a long time. His eyes were sunken and grey. He didn't blink. I lived. But not all of me made it back. I didn't understand what that meant. Before I could ask, he kept talking. "Most graves are for remembering," he said. "But some are. Invitations." "Invitations to what?" I asked. "To cross over before your time. To step into a space where you don't belong yet." "I didn't step in," I said. "I just saw it. I didn't do anything." He tilted his head. "Once. You see your grave. It sees you back." I felt cold. "What do you mean it sees me?" He stepped closer. "It knows your face now. It knows your name. You opened a door, and now something is watching." I stepped back. "Why me? I didn't ask for this." "Doesn't matter," he said. "It's not about what you did. It's about what was waiting." I didn't say anything. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small object. A piece of old paper, folded tight. He handed it to me. "What is this?" I asked. "A name," he said. "The name of the thing that marked your grave." I started to unfold it, but he grabbed my wrist. "Don't read it out loud," he warned. "Ever. That's how it finds you faster." I nodded, even though I didn't really understand. He let go. "You want my advice?" he said. "Stop digging. Stop asking questions. Go back to your life. Pretend you never saw it." "Will that stop it?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. "No," he said finally. "But maybe it'll forget about you. If you're lucky." Then he turned and walked away. No goodbye, no name. I stood there, staring down at the folded paper in my hand. I didn't open it. Not yet, but deep down, I knew. Something already knew. Me, and it wasn't going to forget. It started with my phone. I was lying in bed, trying not to think about the grave. I hadn't gone back since talking to the old man. I kept the folded paper he gave me in my drawer. Untouched. Just after midnight, my phone buzzed. I picked it up. Blank screen. No message. No number, just a notification that said, delivered. Delivered what? I opened my messages. Nothing there. Then I checked the time. The date said tomorrow. Not today. Tomorrow, the same day from the gravestone. I blinked. It switched back. Today. I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then the date flickered again, tomorrow. And then, back to today. I powered the phone off. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I checked my watch. It was one of those digital ones with the date and time. It said I was late for work by 6 hours, but I had just woken up. My alarm didn't even go off. I double-checked my kitchen clock. That one said I still had time. I tapped the watch. The numbers glitched, then reset. The date flashed again. Tomorrow, same thing the next night. Midnight hit, and my phone buzzed 5 times in a row. All blank notifications, no sounds, no apps open. Then came the whispers. At first I thought it was the wind, or maybe the pipes in the wall, but the sound was too clear, too close, like someone was standing right behind me, breathing slowly. I spun. Around no one there, I locked every door, every window. I even pulled the curtain over the mirror in my hallway, but I still heard it. It said my name, whispered it slow. Right in my ear, I shouted, "Who's there?" Silence. I started writing down the times it happened. 12 a.m., 1:06, a.m., 3:14 a.m., 4:42 a.m. Every time I heard the voice, the air got heavier, like it was pushing down on me. I stopped checking my phone. I stopped checking the clocks, but the date kept showing up in random places. On my TV screen, on the microwave, on the receipt I got from the gas station. Tomorrow. Always the same word. It was like time was bending around me, like something was dragging me closer to that grave. I looked at the calendar on my wall. The day was circled in red. I didn't do that. I hadn't even touched the marker in weeks. Each time I passed the circle, it felt like something was counting down, and I didn't know what would happen when the clock hit 0 after the whispers started. I barely slept. Even when I did, it wasn't real sleep. It was full of strange dreams. Or maybe they were memories, things I hadn't thought about in years. The first one hit me while I was brushing my teeth. Out of nowhere, I remembered something from when I was 7. I was swimming at a friend's birthday party. I slipped under the water and hit my head. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I just sank. Everything got quiet and black. I remember seeing a light, but not above me. It was below, and in that light, a shape, a figure, thin, long arms, no face. I remember hearing something. "You are not done yet." Then someone pulled me up, my friend's dad. They said I was only under for a few seconds, but it didn't feel that short until now. I had forgotten all of it. The next memory came a few nights later. I woke up, frozen. My body couldn't move. My chest felt like something heavy was sitting on it. I've had sleep paralysis before, but this time was different. There was a voice again, same one from when I was a kid. Same tone, low, cold. It whispered in my ear, "You were promised." I couldn't speak. I couldn't scream. I just stared at the ceiling while the air around me got thick and sour. When I finally sat up, I couldn't stop shaking. Later that day, I remembered a dream I used to have as a teenager. I never thought much about it back then, just a bad nightmare that kept coming back. In the dream, I was walking through a foggy field. No sky, no sounds, just grey mist and rows of crooked trees. In the middle of the field was a gate, old and rusted. Behind the gate, a graveyard, but I never walked through it. Every time I reached the gate, something would pull me back. I'd wake up, heart pounding, sweating. I had that same dream again last night. Only this time, I stepped through the gate. The fog cleared. The graves were all blank. Every single one, except for one at the very end. It had my name, same grave, same stone, same date. But something was standing next to it. Tall, still, no face. I couldn't move. I just stared at it. Then it turned toward me, and I woke up. Not gasping, not screaming, just awake. Like it had let me go on purpose. I sat in bed, trying to calm down. And that's when I realized something. The voice, the dreams, the accident in the pool, the sleep paralysis. They weren't random. They were warnings, pieces of something bigger. Like I'd been marked a long time ago. Like this has been following me my whole life, hiding in the background, waiting for the right moment, waiting for the date on the stone. It happened the night before the date on the grave. I hadn't left the house all day. I felt sick, tired, like something was draining me every hour. But just before sunset, I looked out my window and saw someone walking by the cemetery gates. They looked familiar, same height, same hair, same clothes I had on yesterday. Squint. It was me, I swear it. At first I thought maybe I was seeing things. Maybe I was just losing my mind. But the person turned their head, and I saw my own face. Exactly mine. They didn't look scared. They didn't even look surprised. They just stared at the cemetery, then walked through the open gate. I grabbed my keys and ran outside. I had to see where they were going, or what they were. I ran across the street toward the cemetery. I saw the back of their head disappear behind a tall mausoleum near the middle of the lot. I ran faster. When I reached the spot, they were gone. I looked all around. No sound, no movement. I checked behind the mausoleum, empty, but the dirt near the base was fresh, like someone had walked there recently. I saw footprints my size, same shoes I had on. They led back toward the gate and stopped. I turned around and walked home slowly, heart racing. I didn't know what I saw, but it was real, back at my front door. I froze. There were muddy footprints on the steps, same as the ones in the cemetery. They led right up to the door. I checked the lock. Still locked, but I had this awful feeling, like someone had already been inside. I stepped in. Everything looked normal, but I saw something strange. A coffee mug, the one I always use, was sitting on the kitchen table, full of coffee, still warm. I hadn't made any. And then I saw my bedroom door slightly open. I knew I had closed it. I walked over slowly and pushed the door open. Nothing inside. Just my room. Same bed. Same clothes on the floor. But something felt off, like the air wasn't mine anymore. That night, I lay in bed, eyes wide open, too scared to sleep. I kept thinking about that other me. Where did it go? Why did it come here? And what if it was still inside? Around 3 a.m., I finally started to doze off. That's when I heard it, breathing, slow, deep breathing, coming from the corner of the room. But I wasn't breathing, and I live alone. I didn't move. I didn't open my eyes. I just listened. It kept going for a long time, and then it stopped. I told myself I wouldn't go back, but on the night before the date on the grave, I did. I don't know why. I didn't want to. My body just moved, like it had already decided. I walked to the cemetery around 11 p.m. Everything was quiet. The streets were empty. No cars, no lights, no wind. The gate was open. I stepped inside. Every part of me wanted to turn around and leave, but I couldn't. My legs felt heavy, like they were being pulled towards something. I followed the same path as before, past the old trees, past the broken stones. Then I saw it. The grave was back. Same stone, same name. My name. I walked closer. The dirt around it looked fresh. Not like it had been dug weeks ago, like it had just been filled. There were no flowers, no tools, no sign of workers, but the earth was loose, like something had been buried just minutes before, or was waiting to come out. I knelt beside it. I reached out and touched the dirt. It was soft, damp, and warm. Suddenly, I heard it. A whisper, faint, but close. Coming from beneath the soil, I leaned in, held my breath. Then I heard it again, clearer. This time it said, my name. My voice said, my name. Let me out. It whispered. I jumped back. Who's down there? I yelled. No answer, just the sound of shifting dirt, like something moving under the ground. I backed away, eyes locked on the grave, and then I heard it again. Same voice, same whisper, but this time it said, you took too long. The ground shifted, just slightly, like something was pushing up from below. I turned to run, but stopped. There was someone standing at the gate. I couldn't see their face, but I knew who it was. It was me, same clothes, same stance. They didn't move, just stared. I looked back at the grave. It was silent now, but I knew what I heard. My voice from underground, and now another me, standing at the exit. One of us wasn't supposed to be here. I woke up in bed. I didn't remember falling asleep. The last thing I remembered was standing at the grave, hearing my voice from beneath the ground, and seeing the other me at the gate. Now I was back in my room. Everything looked normal, but it didn't feel right. I sat up slowly. My chest felt tight. My head was spinning. I looked at the clock on my nightstand. 6:06 a.m. I checked the date on the screen. Same date. The one from the grave. I got out of bed and walked to the kitchen. The calendar on the wall still had the day circled in red dot. Only now, the circle was darker, like someone had gone over it again. I pulled out my phone, pressed the power button. Nothing happened. The screen stayed black. I tried again. Still dead. No sound, no buzz, no light. I plugged it in, waited nothing. I looked. Out the window, the cemetery gate across the street was open, same as the night before. Like it had never closed. I felt cold all over, like the air had stopped moving. I walked to the bathroom and stood in front of the mirror. I looked rough, pale, tired, but it was still me. I stared at my reflection. For a few seconds, everything looked fine. Then I blinked. My reflection didn't. I froze. I blinked again. Nothing. It just stared back. No movement, no expression, just watching me. I reached out and touched the glass. My fingers went cold. This isn't real, I whispered. But it was. I stepped back, heart racing. I ran to the front door and opened it. The sky outside was grey, too grey, like it had been paused. No cars on the road, no people walking, No sound at all. I walked out onto the steps, and then I saw the footprints. Same as before, same size, same shoes. They led from the cemetery, straight to my front door. I turned and looked back at my house. The curtains in my bedroom window moved, but no one was inside. At least I didn't think so. I don't know if I ever left the graveyard. I don't know if I died. I don't even know what day it is anymore. The calendar still says today. Every clock I check says the same time. It's like time stopped. Like tomorrow never came, and maybe it never will. My friend disappeared in the woods. His shoes came back full of blood. They searched the woods for hours. No sign of him. But when his shoes came out of the trees without him, they were full of blood. My name's Josh. I'm going to tell you about the last day I saw my best friend, Aiden. We grew up together in a small town, right next to a big forest. The trees stretched forever. People called it Black Hollow. Some kids said it was haunted. Old folks told stories about people going missing. But Aiden and I never believed that stuff. We'd been hiking those woods since we were 10. There was this main trail we always used. It was safe, marked, and we knew every turn. We'd bring snacks, race to the big rock near the stream, and sometimes just sit in silence, listening to the wind. It was late October, cold but not freezing. Leaves were all over the ground, red and orange. I remember Aiden joking, "Perfect day for a spooky hike. Better not lose me out there." I said, laughing. He grinned, "You. I'd leave you behind if a bear showed up." We packed light, just water, a flashlight, and our phones. We started at noon. It was quiet, no other hikers that day. About an hour in, we reached the fork where the trail splits. We always took the left side, toward the stream. That's when we heard it. A weird noise, like a squeal or bark. Sharp. Quick. It came from off the trail, deep in the trees. "You hear that?" Aiden asked. "Yeah, fox, maybe." He stepped off the trail. "Hey, don't," I said. "Let's stick to the path. Just checking it out. Stay here, I'll be right back," he said. He walked into the woods. I waited at first. I heard twigs snapping as he moved. Then silence. "Dude," I called. "See anything?" "Nothing." "Come." Man, this isn't funny." Still nothing. I stepped toward the trees, but didn't go far. I didn't want to lose sight of the trail. 5 minutes past .10.15. I started shouting his name, over and over. My voice echoed, But there was no reply, no footsteps, no snapping branches, no sound at all. I tried calling his phone straight to voicemail. I ran back to the main path and marked the spot with a water bottle. Then I searched in circles, shouting, panicking. I tripped twice. My hands got scraped on rocks. It was getting late. At some point, I stopped and just listened. My heart was beating so loud I could barely think. That's when I saw something ahead. On the forest floor, about 20 feet from where he went in. 2 shoes, Aiden's shoes, side by side, like someone had placed them there on purpose. I didn't understand at first. I walked up to them slowly. They were soaked, wet and dark. Not mud, blood. I froze. My legs felt locked in place. I couldn't breathe. I checked all around. No sign of Aiden, no footprints, just those shoes. I backed away. I didn't run, I couldn't. I just walked, shaking, until I found the trail again. I called 911. The police came with dogs and search teams. They asked me the same questions again and again. What noise did you hear? How far did he go in? Were you sure it was Aiden's shoes? I knew it was his. Same worn laces. Same brand he always wore. They searched for days. Helicopters. Dogs. Volunteers. Nothing. Not a single piece of clothing. No phone. No body. Just those shoes. And the blood. Everyone said he must have been attacked by an animal. But if that was true, why were the shoes left so neatly? Why wasn't there a single track around them? Sometimes I wish I'd followed him into the woods. Other times, I'm glad I didn't. Because something took Aiden. And I don't think it was a fox. It had been a year since Aiden disappeared. I tried to move on. I really did. I went back to school. I talked to a therapist. I even told myself maybe he just ran away. But every night, I saw his shoes in my head, side by side, covered in blood. No answers, no goodbye, just silence. One Saturday, I woke up before the sun. I didn't plan it. I just got dressed, grabbed my flashlight, and left the house. I didn't tell anyone. I needed to go back to the forest. The streets were empty as I walked. I passed the old gas station, the closed diner, and the trail. Sign that said Black Hollow, stay on the path. I crossed under the gate and stepped into the woods. It felt different. The trees were thicker, taller maybe. I couldn't see the sky through the branches. There were no birds, no bugs, just stillness. I stayed on the main trail. Every step felt harder than the last, like the ground didn't want me there. After almost an hour, I reached the split in the trail. I remembered the rock, the bend in the tree, the spot where Aiden walked off and never came back. I stood there for a while, just staring into the trees. Then I stepped off the trail, the same way Aiden had. The dirt crunched under my boots. The forest was too quiet. I walked slowly, counting. Each step, 20, 30, 40 steps in. Then I saw it, the spot. This was where we found the shoes. But now, there was something else. A long dent in the dirt, like a big groove. Something had been dragged. Maybe a body, maybe something bigger. It started at the edge of a tree and stretched deep into the forest, like a long scar in the earth. I crouched down and touched the ground. The dirt was soft, like it had been turned. Recently, I looked around, but there were no other tracks, no paw prints, no boot prints, just that long, deep line. And then I heard it. Josh, I froze. It was soft, a whisper, Josh. It came from behind a thick group of trees. I turned slowly. Aiden, I said. No answer. Is that you? Still nothing. My mouth went dry. My hands shook. I took a step toward the sound, then stopped. Everything in me screamed, don't go. I stood there, breathing hard, listening. Silence again, no wind, no leaves, no animals. I backed up, 1 step, 2 steps. Then the voice came again. Josh. This time, it was closer, right behind me. I turned around fast. Nothing there. I ran. I didn't care about the trail. I didn't care about getting lost. I just ran. Branches scratched my arms and face. I tripped once and cut my knee, but I didn't stop. I didn't stop until I saw the gate. I didn't look back. I never told anyone I went back. Not my parents, not the police. But I know what I heard. It was Aiden's voice, but it wasn't Aiden. Something out there used his voice, something that remembers me, and now I wonder if it wants me to come back again. I told myself I wouldn't go back again. But 2 weeks later, I did. Something kept pulling me toward the woods. Not just fear, curiosity. What if Aiden was still out there? What if I left him behind? This time, I brought a backpack with water, a phone, a flashlight, and a pocket knife. I left a note at home, just in case. When I got to the forest, I walked the same trail, past the stream, past the bend, to the spot where his shoes were found. The strange groove in the dirt was still there, but fainter. Like the ground had tried to heal, I stood there, thinking. And then I saw it. A small, narrow trail, one I'd never noticed before. It didn't look new. It looked hidden. Thin branches blocked the way, like no one had walked through in years. On the trees beside it, I saw something carved into the bark, symbols, not letters, just shapes. Circles with lines through them, upside-down triangles. One looked like an eye. I knew I shouldn't go in, but I did. The air felt heavier as I walked. My steps were slower. The deeper I went, the weirder everything got. Branches curled the wrong way, like they were reaching for me. Roots stuck up from the ground like fingers. I kept hearing tiny cracks and snaps behind me, but when I turned, there was nothing. I checked my phone. No signal, of course. I wanted to turn back, but something told me to keep going. Just a little more. Then, up ahead, I saw something through the trees. A shape, a tent, maybe. I pushed through the brush and stepped into a small clearing. There was an old campsite, 3 tents, all half-burned. One was melted like it had been in a fire. A rusted lantern sat in the dirt, cold, dead. I walked slowly, looking around. Clothes were scattered everywhere. A torn sleeping bag, a boot with no foot. One of the tents had collapsed. I bent down and looked inside. Something was there. A book. I pulled it out. It was wet and smelled like mold. A journal. Most pages were ruined or torn out, but a few were still readable. They weren't normal pages. They were drawings, the same symbols from the trees. Over and over. Circles, eyes, strange spirals. Some pages had writing, but most of it made no sense. Words that weren't real. Sentences that ended in the middle. One line stood out. It was written in shaky black ink. The forest listens. Another said, it shows you what it wants you to see. I felt sick. My hands were cold. My chest felt tight. Suddenly, I noticed how quiet it had become. No wind, no animals, no sound at all. I grabbed the journal and backed away. Something was wrong here. Very wrong. I didn't run. I just walked fast. Fast enough that I tripped twice. I didn't stop until I saw the main trail again when I got home. I locked the journal in my closet, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Someone else had been out there. Someone who saw what I was seeing. Or maybe worse. When I got home, I put the journal on my desk and just stared at it. It smelled like dirt and smoke. The cover was cracked and soft, like it had been soaked in water and dried out in the sun. I didn't touch it for 2 days, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. On the third night, I opened it. The first few pages were ruined. Black mold had eaten through the corners. Some were stuck together. Others were torn in half. But deeper in, I found pages I could read. The writing was messy, shaky, like someone wrote it with cold hands or in a rush. Some of it didn't make any sense. Lines like, "It watches behind the leaves." I stepped out, but I didn't come back. The mirror smiled first. I kept reading. One entry said, "There was a man standing in the trees. He looked just like me. Same face, same clothes. But he didn't blink. He waved. Then he opened his mouth, but no sound came out." Another said, "Don't trust the voices. It's not who you think it is. It copies, it learns, it waits." I felt cold reading that. I remembered Aiden's voice in the forest. What if it wasn't just a trick? What if something used his voice because it knew I'd follow? I flipped to the next page. It had drawings. A tree with eyes all over it. A person standing in front of a mirror, but the reflection was wrong. The person was crying. The reflection was smiling. Another drawing showed footprints going in 2 directions, like one person had split in half. Below that, someone wrote, "The forest makes doubles. Some are empty, some are hungry." I kept going. One page was covered in scribbles, like the writer was trying to block something out. But a few words were still there. It calls to you in voices you love. Don't answer. Don't ever answer. I read that line again and again. Don't answer when it sounds like someone you love. I shut the book. My hands were shaking. It wasn't just me. Someone else had been out there. Someone else had heard voices, seen things, and they were warning me. That night, I had a dream. I was back in the woods. I saw Aiden standing by a tree, but something was wrong with his face. His smile was too wide, his eyes too dark. He said, "Come closer." I took a step, but then I remembered the journal. I woke up before I could answer. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I locked the journal in my drawer. But it doesn't matter. The words are still in my head. The voice is still calling Dot, and now I know. It's not Aiden. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the journal, the drawings, the warning. Don't answer when it sounds like someone you love. I laid in bed with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling. My room was dark, but I could see a bit of light from the street coming through the curtains. Everything was quiet. Then I heard it, a soft knock. I sat up fast. I thought I imagined it. Then it came again, knock, 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 Dot slow. Careful, it was coming from my window. My bedroom is on the 2nd floor. No one could reach that window then. I heard the voice, "Josh." I froze. It was Aiden. "Josh, it's me." The voice was soft, sad, cold. "I need help, please." I'm still out there. I didn't move. I didn't speak. My body felt heavy, like something was holding me down. I'm so cold. I'm alone. It sounded just like him. The same voice, the same way he talked when he was scared. Please let me in. I wanted to look, just to be sure, just to check if it was really him. But I remembered the journal. Don't answer. Don't ever answer. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stared at the wall. The voice kept going, whispering, crying, begging. Josh, it's so dark. I can't see. Then it stopped. I waited a full minute. 2 minutes, nothing. I stayed like that until the sun came up. When I finally got out of bed, I walked over to the window. I didn't open it. I just looked down. There was nothing there. I went outside before school. I walked around the side of the house. That's when I saw them. Scratch marks, long, deep, carved into the siding under my window. 5 lines, like fingers or claws. They started low and went up almost all the way to the window. I stepped back. I looked up. There were no ladders, no trees close enough, nothing someone could climb. Something had tried to get in. I ran back inside, locked all the doors and windows, closed every curtain. I didn't go to school that day. I sat in my room, watching the window. I didn't hear the voice again, but I know it wasn't a dream. It knew my name. It knew Aiden's voice. It wanted me to let it in, and if I had spoken even one word, I think it would have come through. I didn't sleep much after hearing Aiden's voice, but when I did, the dreams got worse. In the first dream, I was back in the woods. The trees were breathing, moving in and out like lungs. The sky above me kept flickering between day and night. I walked along the trail, but the path kept changing. Every time I looked away, it moved. Sometimes it split. Sometimes it vanished. Then Aiden was there, standing between 2 trees. He looked right at me, but something was wrong with his face. It kept flickering like a glitch in a video. 1 second, he was smiling. The next, he was blank. Then he was crying. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. Then he said, "It lets me speak, sometimes." His mouth moved slow, like underwater. I asked, "Where are you?" But he didn't answer. He just shook his head and whispered, "It watches when I talk. I'm not supposed to." Then the ground opened under him and pulled him down. I woke up sweating. The next night, I had another dream. This time, I wasn't in the forest. I was in my room, but everything was twisted. The walls were wrong. The floor was slanted. My bed was sideways. I looked in the mirror and froze. My reflection wasn't moving. It was just staring at me, eyes wide, not blinking. I waved my hand. It didn't wave back. Then, after a few seconds, it did like it was copying me, but behind, then it smiled. I didn't. I woke up with my heart pounding. I ran to the bathroom and looked in the mirror again. Everything looked normal, but I still felt off. That day, I walked past a window and saw something in the corner of my eye. My reflection was still standing there. Even after I had moved, I turned and it was gone. I stopped trusting mirrors after that. I even covered the one in my room with a towel. But the dreams kept coming. In one of them, I saw the forest from above. It wasn't a normal shape. It looked like a huge eye made of trees. The middle was black like a deep hole, and I could feel it watching me at night. When I wasn't dreaming, I started hearing things inside the house. Footsteps, not heavy, soft, slow, like bare feet. They moved across the hallway. Sometimes they stopped at my door. I'd stare at the gap under the doorframe, waiting to see a shadow, but nothing ever showed. Once, I heard something breathing on the other side. I held my breath and listened. It was real, slow and raspy. Then it stopped. I didn't sleep that night. I think the forest is trying to get inside me, not just my house, my head. It shows me things. It messes with time, with mirrors, with Aiden, and I can't tell what's real anymore. I told myself I was done with the forest, but the dreams wouldn't stop. The voice wouldn't stop, and I needed answers, so I went back. I waited until Sunday morning. I told my parents I was going to the library. Then I packed my bag, flashlight, water, a small knife, and the journal. It was colder this time. The trees looked darker, like they had grown thicker in just a few weeks. I walked fast, past the old trail, past the burned campsite, past everything I had seen before. I headed straight for the place where I found the shoes. I knew the spot by heart now, but when I got there, it wasn't the same. The long groove in the dirt, the one that looked like something had been dragged, was different. It wasn't a line anymore, it was a hole, a perfect circle in the ground, about 6 feet wide. Not just a hole, a tunnel. It wasn't made of dirt. The inside was wood, like smooth tree bark, shaped into a tube. It looked alive. I swear it was moving, breathing. The air around it felt wrong, too warm, too thick. And then I heard it, Josh. The voice echoed from the hole. Please, I'm here. It was Aiden's voice again, soft, weak, like he was far away. Help me. I stood there, frozen. I knew it wasn't smart. I knew the journal said not to answer, but I couldn't stop myself. I stepped closer. The hole pulsed, like a heartbeat. Then the voice said, "It's safe now. You can come in." I got on my knees and looked inside. It went down at an angle, like a slide, but too narrow for standing. I took one last breath and crawled in. The tunnel was tight at first. I had to crawl on my elbows. The walls were smooth and warm, like the inside of a tree. After a few feet, the tunnel opened wider. I could stand up, but barely. I turned on my flashlight. The walls weren't just wood. They had marks on them, like veins, like scars. The air smelled sweet and rotten, like fruit left out too long. I walked deeper, no sound, not even my own footsteps. Then I came to a split, 2 paths, both twisting away into darkness. I called out Aiden. Silence. Then, faintly, this way. I turned left. The tunnel bent and turned like a maze. At one point, the floor dipped. I slipped and fell. My flashlight hit the wall and flickered, but stayed on. I picked it up and saw something. A handprint burned into the wood. It was small, Aiden's size. I kept going. I saw bones once. Not full ones, just small pieces, like fingers or toes. Another tunnel had a mirror on the wall. Yes, a mirror, dirty and cracked. When I looked into it, I didn't see myself. I saw Aiden, but he was standing behind me. I turned fast, no one there. I started breathing hard. I wanted to go back, but then I heard the voice again. Don't leave. So I kept going, deeper into the hollow. And I knew whatever this place was, it wasn't just underground. It was something else, something older, and I wasn't supposed to be here. The deeper I went, the less real everything felt. The walls started to bend and twist. My flashlight flickered, even though the batteries were new. Then I heard voices, not one, many, crying, whispering, gasping. Some were calling for help. Others were just saying the same words over and over. One voice kept repeating, "I made a wrong turn. I made a wrong turn." Another whispered, "Don't blink, don't blink, don't blink." I turned a corner and saw something in the tunnel wall. A face, not alive, just there, pressed into the wood like it had been swallowed. Eyes shut, mouth open like it died screaming. I backed away, then I saw more. Hands, arms, faces, all pushed into the wood, like the tunnel had eaten them. I wanted to leave. I should have left. But then I heard it. Josh, Aiden's voice. "Close now. Help." I ran. The tunnel opened into a wide room. A strange, round space, like the inside of a tree trunk, but hollowed out. And in the middle was Aiden. I stopped. He was sitting on the ground, barely breathing. His head hung low. His legs were twisted, bones bent the wrong way. One arm looked broken. His skin was pale and torn, but his eyes were open. He looked at me, and he started crying. "Josh," he said, but not loud, just a whisper. I stepped forward. "Aiden, I'm here. I found you." Then something moved behind him. I froze. Out of the wall, something stepped forward. It looked like Aiden, same face, same clothes, but it was smiling too wide, too still. It put its hand on his shoulder. Then it looked at me and spoke, "Thank you for coming." Same voice, same tone, but not him. I backed up the thing, kept smiling. It said, "He's been such a good host." Then the real Aiden looked at me again. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. Just two words, "Kill me." I turned and ran. I didn't think, I didn't stop. I ran through the tunnels, not caring where I was going. The walls shook. The ground pulsed under my feet. I heard my own voice screaming behind me. "Come back, Josh. Don't leave me, Josh. I'm cold." I didn't look back. The flashlight died. I ran in the dark. Hands brushed my arms. Something scratched my back, but I kept going until I saw light, a small crack. A way out. I dove through it, and the forest was there. I crawled out of the hole and didn't stop running until I reached the road. I never went back, but I still hear him in dreams. Sometimes when I'm alone, and now I wonder, did I leave Aiden behind, or did something else follow me out? I don't remember how I got home. I just remember crawling out of that tunnel, running through the trees, and then nothing. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in the grass near the road. A car stopped and picked me up. The driver kept asking if I was okay. I didn't answer. I couldn't speak. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next night, I didn't eat. I didn't tell anyone what I saw, because how do you explain that? I went into a hole in the ground and found my friend broken, crying, begging for death. And I found something else wearing his face. Something still smiling. I kept thinking maybe it was a dream. Maybe I had a breakdown. Maybe I was sick. But then, a few days later, I woke up and walked outside to get the mail, and I saw them dot my shoes, sitting on the front porch, side by side, soaked in blood, same way we found Aiden's. I just stared at them. My heart started pounding. They were the same shoes I always wore, hiking. Same scuffed laces, same torn heel, but they were covered in blood. Fresh, wet, dark red. I looked down at my feet. I was barefoot. I don't remember taking my shoes off. I don't remember losing them. I stepped back. My mouth was dry. My skin felt cold. Then I heard it. A whisper from the trees across the street. At first, I couldn't tell what it was saying. It was too soft. Then I realized it was my voice, whispering from the woods. Josh, it sounded just like me. Come back. My legs felt like they were going to give out. I shut the door, locked it, closed every curtain in the house, but I could still hear it, not loud. Just enough every night now. When the world gets quiet, I hear my own voice outside, calling, begging, and I think I know what it wants. It wants someone else to answer. A little girl keeps knocking at my door. She knows my childhood secrets. No one knows the things she said, not even family, but every night, the little girl knocks and whispers what no one should remember. I live alone in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing strange ever really happens here. It was a Tuesday night. Rain was falling hard outside. I was watching TV with a blanket wrapped around me, half asleep on the couch. Then I heard it knock, knock, knock. It wasn't loud, just soft and slow. I froze. I looked at the time. It was 9:42 p.m. Too late for a delivery. Too late for visitors. I turned off the TV, sat up, listened. Knock, knock, knock. 3 more knocks. I got up and walked to the door. I didn't open it right away, just peeked. Through the peephole, there was a little girl standing there. She looked maybe 8 years old, soaking wet. Her long black hair stuck to her face. She was wearing a light blue dress with muddy socks, no shoes. I opened the door a crack. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked. She didn't answer right away, just stood there, rain dripping off. Her elbows, "Are you lost?" I asked again. Then she looked up at me. Her eyes were wide and empty, not scared, not crying, just blank. She said, "You used to hide under the bed." I felt my chest tighten. "What?" She tilted her head a little. "When your dad got mad, you hid under the bed." Every time I stared at her, my stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone that. Not even my closest friends. Not even my therapist. It was true. I used to crawl under my bed and hold my breath whenever my dad yelled. I was 5, maybe 6 years old. I stepped back. "How do you know that?" The girl didn't move. She just kept staring. I looked around, expecting to see a parent, someone looking for her. But the street was empty, just rain and silence. "Where do you live?" I asked, softer this time. She didn't answer. I stepped outside, only for a second. "Do you want to come in? I can call someone for you." I turned. Back to her, she was gone. No footsteps, no running. Just gone. I spun around, scanning the sidewalk, the yard, the driveway. Nothing. I stepped into the street and looked both ways. No sign of her. I stood there, soaked, confused, and weirdly afraid. I went back inside and locked the door. For the rest of the night, I kept thinking about what she said. "You used to hide under the bed." How did she know? I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the front door, checking the windows. I even looked under my bed. Nothing. The next day, I asked a few neighbors if they had seen a little girl out in the rain the night before. Nobody had. One guy even said, "A kid, out in that storm." No way, we didn't hear a thing. I wanted to believe I imagined it, that maybe I dozed off on the couch and dreamed the whole thing, but I remember the sound of her voice and how cold the rain felt on my skin when I stepped outside. It was real, and somehow, that little girl knew something no one should ever know. After the girl came to my door, I tried to forget it. I told myself it was just some strange neighborhood kid playing a prank, that maybe she got the wrong house. But that night, I had a dream. I was back in my old bedroom, the one I had when I was 6. Same faded wallpaper, same nightlight in the corner, same bed with the wooden frame. In the dream, I was lying under that bed. It was dark, dusty, my legs were shaking. I could hear footsteps above me, slow, heavy, moving around the room. Then a voice whispered, "Be quiet, or he'll hear you." I didn't know where the voice came from. It wasn't mine. It wasn't my dad's. It was soft, young, a girl's voice. I woke up breathing hard. My heart was pounding. I hadn't thought about that room in years. Later that day, I sat in the kitchen drinking coffee, trying to shake the dream, but little things started coming back. I remembered hiding under the bed with my hands over my ears. I remembered counting 1, 2, 3, over and over again. Like if I kept counting, nothing bad would happen. I also remembered something else. A game. It was something I played alone. At night, I'd sit in the dark, close my eyes, and whisper into the mirror. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I saw it in a book or made it up. I can't remember, but I do remember the rules. Whisper a secret. Don't blink. Wait for the voice. It sounds stupid now, but at the time, I thought it was real. I thought the mirror could talk back. I tried to push it out of my head. I went to work, watched a movie, cleaned the kitchen, anything to distract myself. But that night, I had another dream. Same bedroom, same bed, same dark space underneath. But this time, I wasn't hiding alone. There was someone else under the bed with me. I couldn't see their face, just a shape. They were whispering something I couldn't understand. Then they turned their head, slowly, and said, "You said you wouldn't leave me." I sat up in bed, fully awake, sweating. That wasn't just a dream, it was a memory I didn't want. I don't know who the girl at the door was. I don't know how she knew about the bed, but ever since she showed up, things have changed. I'm remembering stuff I thought was gone, stuff I buried a long time ago, and I get the feeling there's more. Something I forgot on purpose. 2 nights later, it happened again. I was lying in bed, half asleep, when I heard it knock, knock, knock. I sat up right away. I looked at the clock. On my nightstand, 3:12 a.m., same time. My heart was already beating fast. I didn't move at first. I just listened. 3 slow knocks, then silence. I got out of bed and crept to the front door. I didn't turn on the lights. I looked through the peephole, and there she was again. The same little girl, soaking wet. Same blue dress. Same long black hair. Barefoot. She wasn't looking at the door this time. She was looking down at her feet. I opened the door just a few inches. "What do you want?" I asked. She looked up slowly. Then she said something that made my stomach twist. "You lied to your mum about what happened in the basement." I stared at her. "What?" Her voice didn't change. It was soft, flat, like she was just stating a fact. "You told her you never saw me," she said. "But you did." I slammed the door shut, locked it, stepped back, shaking. I stood there for a full minute. Then I opened the door again. The porch was empty. She was gone. I stepped outside and looked around. Nothing. I walked down the steps and checked the yard. No footprints, no sound, no movement. Just rainwater still dripping from the gutter. I went back inside and sat on the couch. The word basement kept echoing in my head. I hadn't thought about the basement in years. I never liked it. It always felt too cold, too dark. I used to avoid it, even as a kid. And I definitely never told my mum about the thing I saw down there, because I didn't understand what I saw. I was maybe 6 or 7. I had gone down to get my ball. It had rolled behind some boxes, and when I looked around the corner, there was someone sitting on the floor, in the dark. A little girl. She was facing the wall, not moving. I blinked, and she was gone. I ran upstairs and never said a word. I forgot all about it until now. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I pulled up the security camera feed on my phone. I had one camera pointed at the front porch. It recorded 24/7. I scrolled to the time 3:12 a.m. The video played, but the screen was just static. No sound, no image, just a black and white blur of fuzz. I checked the minutes before and after. Everything was normal, only during those few minutes. Nothing, like she didn't want to be seen, or couldn't be. I saved the clip anyway, but deep down, I knew what I saw. She was real, she came back, and now she was talking about the basement, about things I buried a long time ago, and I was starting to think she wasn't just some ghost. She was a memory, piece of the past I had tried to erase. I didn't want to go down there. I've lived in this house for years, but I haven't been in the basement since I moved in. I always kept it locked. I told myself I didn't need the space, that it was just full of junk. But after seeing that girl again, after what she said about the basement, I couldn't ignore it anymore. So, that afternoon, I grabbed the spare key from the drawer. I stood at the basement door for a while. My hand was shaking a little. I didn't know why. Then I unlocked it and opened the door. It smelled like dust. An old wood eye turned on the light. One small bulb at the top of the stairs lit up. It wasn't bright, but enough to see the steps. I started walking down. Each step creaked. The air felt thick, heavy. I reached the bottom and looked around. It was cold. The floor was cement, and the walls were lined with old shelves and boxes. There were spiderwebs in the corners. A broken chair sat against the far wall. One leg was missing, and the seat was covered in dust. I started moving boxes. Most were filled with junkled wires, Christmas stuff, worn-out shoes. Then I saw it, a small box, wooden. The top was scratched, and written across the lid in red marker was one word: forget. I stared at it. I don't remember writing that, but the handwriting looked like mine. Small and messy, like when I was a kid. I slowly opened it. Inside were photos, old ones, all from my childhood. The first one was me, maybe 6 years old, sitting on the floor. I was crying. My face was red. In the background, I saw the cracked mirror that used to hang in my bedroom. I don't remember that photo being taken. The second photo was even worse. It was me again, but not alone. Next to me was a little girl, same age, same blue dress, hair in her face, but I could see part of it. She looked off. She wasn't smiling. She was just standing there, too close. I flipped through more photos. There she was again, different. Rooms, different days. Sometimes she was behind me, sometimes beside me. In one, she was staring right into the camera. But here's the thing, I don't remember her. Not once. Not one memory of ever having a friend like that. I sat down on the basement steps and held the photos in my lap. My heart was beating fast. This wasn't a ghost from outside. She was part of my life. She'd been here before, and for some reason I forgot her, or maybe I was made to forget. That night at 3:12, I didn't go to the door. I didn't need to. I already knew who she was, or who she used to be. And the worst part, she hadn't changed. Not one bit. After I found the box in the basement, I couldn't stop thinking about the photos. The little girl was in so many of them, always close, always quiet, but I couldn't remember her name. I couldn't even remember her voice that night. I went into the bathroom and stared at the mirror. It was foggy from the shower earlier. Even though hours had passed, the steam should have cleared by now, but it hadn't. I wiped the mirror with my hand. My reflection looked tired, pale. My eyes were red from no sleep. Then something came back to me, a memory. From when I was really young, I used to play a game. It was a secret game, one I never told anyone about. I would turn off all the lights, close the door, and sit in front of the mirror. Then I'd whisper into it things like, "Tell me a secret. What should I do? What happens next?" And sometimes the mirror answered, not out loud. It would fog up, and words would appear in the mist. Short ones, simple. I remember one night I asked, "What do I do?" And the mirror fogged up. 3 words appeared, "Make her go." I didn't understand what it meant, so I whispered again, "Who?" Nothing, just silence. But the next night, I asked the same question, and this time the mirror said, "Make her go away." That was the last time I played the game. I had forgotten about it completely, until now. Standing there, looking at myself, I whispered, "Who was she?" The mirror didn't answer, but deep inside, I already knew. The girl at the door, the one in the photos. She wasn't just some ghost. She was part of my life, and I had done something to her. Or maybe I let something else do it. Something inside that mirror. I started shaking. My hands, my knees. What did I do? Why did I stop remembering? Her. Why did I lock all those things away in a box and write forget on it? I sat on the bathroom floor and tried to breathe. My mind was spinning. Then, from the other room, knock. Knock, knock. I didn't move. I just sat there. I didn't need to open the door. I already knew what she would say. Something like, "You broke the rules." Or "You said you'd never leave me." I stayed on the floor for over an hour. No more knocks came, just silence. But that was worse, because now I knew the truth. I didn't just forget her. I erased her, and the game. It wasn't over, not yet. I haven't slept in days. Something is wrong with this house. It started with small things, lights flickering, my phone screen turning on by itself, static on the TV when nothing was playing. Then came the whispers. They didn't sound like they were inside the room. They were coming from the walls, soft, like someone talking through a thin crack. Sometimes it was just a word. Sometimes it was humming. Once it was crying, and every time I leaned in to listen, it stopped. One night, I was brushing my teeth when I heard it again. A laugh, high-pitched, short, a child's laugh. I froze. Staring at the bathroom mirror, the sound had come from behind. I reached up and tapped the glass. Silence. I leaned in, nose almost touching the surface. Then the light above me blinked twice. The mirror fogged slightly. I'd stepped back fast. I didn't want to play that game again. That same night, I woke up to the sound of knocking. 3 soft knocks. I looked at the clock, 3:12 a.m. She was on the porch again. This time, she didn't say anything right away. She just stared at me through the glass, rain dripping from her hair, her dress soaked. Then she said, "You took the key." I opened the door just a crack. "What key?" I asked. She didn't blink. "You locked me in." I shut the door, locked it, pulled the curtain. I could still feel her staring. The next day, I checked every drawer, every box, every old coat pocket. I don't remember ever having a key, but I believed her. Whatever she was talking about, I knew I had something to do with it. That night, I pushed my dresser in front of the door. I was scared of what might happen next, but it didn't matter. At 3:12 a.m., the lights in my bedroom flickered. The walls creaked. Then I heard her voice again right next to my ear. "You still don't remember, do you?" I jumped up, looked around. No one there. The dresser was still in place. The door still locked. But I was done pretending. I was starting to lose it. Every night I heard things. Whispers when the TV was off. Breathing in the hall when I was alone. One time, my closet door opened by itself. Sometimes I saw movement in the corner of my eye. A shape, a shadow, small, child-sized. I don't know if I'm going crazy, or if she's getting stronger. She knocks every other night now. Each time, she says something new. "You left me. You promised. You forgot my name." But the worst was last night. She said, "You were supposed to stay with me forever." Now, I'm afraid to sleep. I'm afraid to think. Every sound makes me jump. I don't know what's real anymore, but I know this. She remembers everything, and she's not going away. I went back down into the basement. I didn't want to, but I had to. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. The knocking, the whispers, the girl. It was getting worse. She kept saying I locked her in, so I started looking. I checked every wall, every shelf, every corner, and then I saw something strange. There, was a tall metal rack pushed against the far wall. It looked normal, like it had been there for years, but the dust on the floor in front of it was different, less thick, like it had been moved. I pulled the whole rack aside. Behind it was a panel in the wall, old, wooden, and painted the same color as the concrete around it, almost hidden. It had no handle, just a small keyhole. I remembered what she said. You took the key. I ran back upstairs, dug through the drawer where I kept all my junkled screws, keys, dead batteries. At the bottom, I found it, a small brass key with no tag. I didn't remember where it came from, but I knew it had to fit. I went back to the basement. My hands were shaking as I put the key in. It turned with a loud click. The panel creaked open. Behind, it was a narrow door, and behind that a small room. It was barely bigger than a closet. The walls were made of old wooden boards. No lights, no windows. There was a thin, dirty mattress on the floor. Moldy, ripped next to it was a single child's shoe. Pink, covered in dust. I stepped inside. The air smelled like old clothes and something. Rotten dot. Then I saw the walls. They were covered in drawings. Children's drawings. Crayons, maybe markers. Most were shapes. Some looked like faces. One looked like a mirror with black scribbles all over it. But that wasn't the worst. Part one word was scratched into the wall, over and over again. Let me out, dozens of times. Some were small, some were big, some were so deep the wood splintered. Turned around, looked at the floor, at the mattress, at the drawings. I stood there, heart pounding. Did someone live here? Was someone kept here? Was it her? Did I do this? I sat down on the edge of the mattress, trying to remember, trying to pull something, anything from my past, but my mind was blank. I was a kid. I didn't know what I was doing back then. I played weird games. I saw things, heard voices. What if I didn't imagine her? What if she was real, and I locked her in here? I stood up and backed out of the room. I slammed the panel shut and didn't lock it this time. I couldn't stop hearing that. One sentence in my head: you took the key. You locked me in. And now she's back, and she wants me to see what I did. I thought she could only get in if I opened the door. I was wrong. It happened last night. I woke up suddenly, not to a sound, but a feeling like someone was in the room with me. I sat up slowly. My eyes hadn't even adjusted when I saw her, standing at the foot of my bed. The girl, same wet hair, same dress, same pale skin, but this time she was inside. I didn't move. I didn't speak. She looked at me with wide eyes, like she was hurt. Then she whispered, "You promised you'd come back." My mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" I asked. Her face didn't change. She just said it again, quieter. "You promised." I blinked, and she was gone. Just gone. I jumped out of bed and flipped on the light. The room was empty. I ran out into the hallway, looked in the bathroom, nothing. But then I saw the hallway mirror. It was cracked right down the center. I hadn't touched it. No one had. I stepped closer. My reflection looked strange, off. I was frowning in real life. My face was tight, scared, but in the mirror, I was smiling. Not a little smile. A wide, creepy grin. I froze. I lifted my hand slowly. So did the reflection. But the smile didn't fade. It stayed locked on its face, on my face. I whispered, "What are you?" The crack in the mirror spread a little. Just a small sound. Tick. I backed away. I don't think she's just a ghost. I think I made her, back when I was a kid. Back when I talked to the mirror. Back when I played those weird games and whispered secrets into the dark. I think I gave her a name, a place, a voice dot, and now she wants something. Maybe revenge, maybe to be remembered, or maybe to come back for real. I haven't looked in that mirror since. I covered it with a towel, but I still feel it watching me, and at night. Sometimes I hear her voice close by. Even when I'm awake, she says the same thing every time. You left me down there. Last night, I saw it all. I don't know if it was a memory, a dream, or something she made me see, but it felt real. I was back in the old house. The one I grew up in. Everything was small. The hallway, the furniture, even the ceiling. Like I was a kid again. I was standing in front of the mirror in my childhood bedroom. It was covered in fog. I saw my young face staring back at me, and standing beside me was her, the little girl. Only this time, she wasn't wet. She wasn't pale or strange. She looked normal. She looked like family. She smiled at me. A real smile. Not scary, not cold. Then I heard it. A voice, not hers, not mine, from the mirror. Deep and slow. One must stay. The girl turned to me. I don't want to go, she whispered. Please don't make me go. Then the vision changed. We were in the basement, the old one from the house I lived in when I was small. There was a door in the wall, just like the one in my house now. She stood beside it, crying. I'm scared, she said. I won't tell, just don't lock me in. And I stepped forward. I had the key in my hand. I was crying too. I have two, I told her. It said two. Then I pushed the door shut, turned the key, locked her inside. She screamed, banged on the door. You promised. The sound was awful then. Everything went dark. I woke up in bed, heart racing. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking. I remembered everything. She wasn't a ghost. She wasn't made dash up. She was real, a real little girl. Maybe my sister. Maybe a friend. I don't know anymore. But I knew her. And I left her down there. Because the mirror told me to. Because I believed it. Because I was afraid. I lied. I blocked it out. I grew up and forgot. But she didn't. She remembers everything. Every night I cried and told her it wasn't my fault. Every time I walked past the door and ignored her voice. She never forgot. And now, she's back. I didn't sleep at all. I just sat on the couch with the lights off, waiting. The house was quiet, but I felt her here, like the walls were breathing. I kept my eyes on the clock. 3:09 a.m. I didn't move, didn't blink. 3:10.3:11. Then knock. 3 soft taps at the door, just like always. But this time I didn't freeze. I stood up, walked to the door. I didn't check the peephole. I already knew who it was. I unlocked the deadbolt, turned the handle, opened the door. She was standing there. Same blue dress, same pale face, same soaked hair. But she looked calm, almost sad. She didn't smile. She didn't blink. She just said one thing. Are you ready to remember the rest? I stared at her. My mouth was dry. My hands were shaking. She waited. The rain dripped off her dress, puddling at her bare feet. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just stepped back. The door was still open. She didn't move. She was waiting for me to decide. And in that moment, I remembered something else. Not a full memory, just a flash. a scream, a hand pulling at mine. Her voice yelling my name, me. Walking away, locking the door. Telling myself it wasn't real, that I didn't know her, that she didn't matter, but she did. She always did. I looked her in the eyes. "I'm sorry," I whispered. My voice broke. The house creaked behind me. The mirror down the hall cracked again. She didn't say anything. She just stepped forward, slow, quiet. I didn't stop her. The door stayed open. The rain kept falling, and the clock on the wall changed. 3:13 a.m. She walked past me, into the house. The air got colder. The lights flickered once, and then everything went still. No sound, no footsteps, no knocking, just silence. And I stood there, in the open doorway, not knowing if I had just let something in, or let something out. My grandpa warned me about the mirror room before he died. He always spoke about the mirror room, just stories, until the day after his funeral, when the room appeared and the mirrors opened. When my grandfather died, he left me his house. It was out in the countryside, quiet, old, the kind of place where you can hear your own heartbeat. I hadn't seen the house since I was a kid. I remembered little things, his big armchair, the old record player, the smell of mint, tea. But I also remembered one strange thing he used to say: never open the mirror room. I asked him once, "What's that?" He just shook his head. "Don't go looking for it," he said. "Just promise me." I was 8. I said okay and forgot all about it until now. The day I moved in, I found his keys waiting on the kitchen counter, like he'd just stepped out. Dust covered everything, cobwebs in the corners. The house was quiet, too quiet. I started walking around, room by room. Kitchen, living room, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, nothing strange. I even pulled out the old blueprint he kept folded in a drawer. I counted every room. There was no mirror room, no locked doors, no extra spaces, so I told myself he was just being weird. Maybe it was something from his childhood. That night, I was brushing my teeth when I heard something, a click, then a soft creak. It came from the hallway. I walked out and looked around. At the very end of the hole on a wall that used to be solid, There was now a door, a wooden door, faded, and it was shut. My stomach dropped. I walked toward it slowly. It didn't belong there. I ran my hand along the edge. The wall around it was rough, like the plaster had been chipped away to make room. There was no doorknob, just a keyhole. I checked the blueprint again. That part of the house was supposed to be solid wall. No room, no closet, nothing. And yet, here it was. A door that shouldn't exist. I didn't try to open it. Not yet. Instead, I searched the house for a key. I looked in drawers, under furniture, even behind old picture frames. Nothing, but I kept thinking about what Grandpa said. Never open the mirror room. Was this it? The door didn't have any markings, no signs, but it felt wrong, like it was. Watching me, I stared at it for a long time. Then I did something I still don't understand. I whispered, "Is this the mirror room?" And right after I said that, the hallway light flickered just once. Quick, then the door made the sound tap, 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 like someone knocking softly from the other side. I froze. Did I imagine it? I leaned in close. Nothing. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes, just listening. Then, I walked back to my bedroom and locked the door. That night, I dreamed of mirrors, tall ones, broken ones, and one that looked just like me. Except it wasn't smiling, it was watching the next night. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. Old houses creak, walls shift, doors stick, but deep down, I knew that door at the end of the hall wasn't there before, and I couldn't stop thinking about what I heard. Those 3 soft knocks. I told myself maybe it was a pipe, or the wood settling, but then something else happened. Around 2 in the morning, I was still awake, just lying there, staring at the ceiling. Then I heard it a creaking sound, slow, sharp, like someone was walking across the floor just outside my door. I sat up and held my breath. Creak, it stopped right in front of my bedroom. I got up and tiptoed to the door. Didn't open it, just listened. Nothing, but then a small flicker of light came from under the door. A dim orange glow. Like candlelight, it moved, left to right, like someone walking with a lantern. I backed away from the door. After a few minutes, the glow faded. I waited a little longer. Then I cracked the door open. The hallway was dark again, totally normal. But when I stepped out, I saw something strange in the hallway mirror. It's an old mirror, big, framed in dark wood. Been hanging there since I was a kid. I looked into it, tanned, stopped, because my reflection wasn't right. It was off by just a second. I moved my hand. Slowly, so did the reflection, but it hesitated, like it forgot what to do for a split second, then caught up. I tried again, raised my other hand, same thing. It lagged, not much, barely enough to notice, but it was enough. Then I leaned in closer, and, I swear just for a moment, my reflection looked directly into my eyes and smiled. But I wasn't smiling. I jumped, back, blinked. The smile was gone. The reflection was normal. Again, I stood there, frozen, watching it. It did everything I did. No delay, like nothing had happened. But I knew what I saw that night. I had another dream. I was back in the hallway, but it was longer now. The mirror was gone, replaced by dozens more, lining the walls all the way down. Some were cracked, some were dirty, some were clear, too clear. In each one, I saw myself, but not normal. In one, my eyes were all black, In another, my head was tilted sideways like it was broken. In one mirror, I wasn't there at all, just empty glass. And at the very end of the hallway, there was a tall figure standing behind one of the mirrors. I couldn't see its face, just a shape, still waiting. I tried to turn away, but my feet wouldn't move. And then I heard whispering. Dozens of voices saying the same thing. Let it in. I woke up gasping for air. My shirt was soaked in sweat. I looked at the clock. 3:03 a.m. Then I glanced at the hallway mirror. Nothing strange, but I still didn't go near it. Not that night, not the next day. Something was inside it. Something that looked like me, but wasn't. It was around 2:30 in the morning when I heard the door. Not my bedroom door. The one at the end of the hallway. The one that wasn't supposed to be there. I had locked my bedroom, like I always do now, but I still heard it. Creak, not loud, just enough to wake me up. I sat up in bed and listened. Silence, then a soft click, like something unlocking. I got out of bed and opened my door slowly. The hallway was dark, but the door at the end was open, just a little. I walked toward it. Each step felt heavier than the last. When I reached it, I pushed it open. More. The air inside was cold. There were no windows, just mirrors. Dozens of them, lining every wall, floor to ceiling. Some were tall and clean. Some were cracked. Some were completely shattered. Others were foggy, like someone had just breathed on them, and every one of them showed something slightly off. In one mirror, I was taller. In another, I had no eyes. One reflection looked normal, but blinked when I didn't. I stepped into the room. The floor creaked behind me. The door slammed shut, hard. I spun around. There was no knob on the inside, just a flat surface. I was trapped. The air felt thick. I turned slowly, looking at each mirror. Some were shaking, just a little, like something was breathing behind them. Then I saw him. My grandfather. His face was in one of the mirrors. Just his face. He looked scared. He opened his mouth and moved his lips, like he was trying to say something, but no sound came out. I stepped closer. What? I whispered. What are you saying? His lips moved again, for words. I read them. Don't stay too long. Then his face disappeared. The mirror went black. I backed away. The other mirrors started to fog up. One by one, I could hear something moving behind them. Scraping, breathing. I banged on the door. Let me out. I shouted. No answer. I grabbed one of the smaller mirrors and threw it at the door. It shattered, and just like that, the door creaked open. I didn't wait. I ran out and slammed it shut behind me. Then I fell to the floor, breathing hard. My hands were shaking. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, I tried to open the door again. It was gone, like it had never been there. Just a blank wall. But I know what I saw. That room was real, and it's still there. Somewhere behind the walls, waiting. I tried to forget about the mirror room. I told myself. It was a dream, a weird, messed up dream. But things started getting worse. It began with the mirrors. Every single one in the house started acting strange. In the bathroom, I saw something move behind me. I turned around, no one was there. In the hallway mirror, my reflection blinked a second too late. In the bedroom mirror, I swore I saw someone standing behind me. Tall, still. But when I turned, the room was empty. I even took one of the mirrors off the wall and put it in the closet. That night, I heard whispering coming from inside the closet. Whispers that said my name, over and over, soft, like someone was sitting in the dark, waiting. I didn't open the closet. I just shoved a chair against it and left the light on all night. The next morning, I checked. The mirror was still in there, but the glass had fog on it. I hadn't even touched it. There were words written in the fog. Why didn't you listen? I slammed the closet shut. I should have left the house right then, but I didn't. I kept thinking I could fix it, that I could figure out what was going on later that day. I stood in front of the hallway mirror and just watched. My reflection stared. Back at first, it did everything I did. Same movements, same blink, same breathing. Then I looked down, just for a second. When I looked back up, my reflection was smiling. I wasn't, not even a little. I backed away slowly. The smile faded. Then, my reflection mouthed something. No sound, just lips moving. It's still open. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard whispering. Sometimes it was my name. Sometimes it was other words I didn't understand. Once, I heard my grandfather's voice. He said, "You have to close it." I sat up and yelled, "Close, what?" No answer, just silence, until I looked at the mirror across the room. It was completely fogged over, even though the room was cold, even though nothing had changed. I got up and walked over to it. There was something behind the glass, not a reflection, a shadow, tall, not moving, just watching me. I picked up a blanket and threw it over the mirror. I didn't want to see anymore, didn't want to know what was waiting, but I knew I couldn't hide from it forever. Something had been opened, and whatever it was, it wanted me to see. I knew I had to find answers. So the next day, I went up to the attic. The air was thick with dust, boxes stacked high, old clothes, forgotten memories. I pulled a small wooden chest from under a pile of books. Inside, I found a leather-bound journal. The cover was worn, but the name was clear. Grandpa's. I opened it carefully. The pages were filled with drawings, mirrors, many mirrors, some broken, some whole. There were words, 2 notes about dreams, warnings, but one page caught my eye. It said, "The mirror room traps what we bury." I read that line over and over. What did it mean? More pages showed sketches of the house. The mirror room was. They're hidden inside the walls. Some pages were torn, but on the blank spaces, one word was written again and again, reflections. As I flipped through the journal, memories came back. I was a kid again in my old house. I was locked in a room, a small room filled with mirrors. I remember banging on the door, crying, trying to get out, but no one came. I didn't want to think about it before. I pushed the memory away, but now it made sense. Grandpa's warnings, the locked door, the whispers. I kept reading. Grandpa wrote about dreams, nightmares, where he was trapped inside the mirror room, unable to escape. He said it fed on secrets and pain. It held pieces of people parts they tried to hide, and if you stayed too long, the room would take you. I closed the journal and looked around the attic. The house was full of secrets, and I was part of them. I didn't know what I had buried, but the mirror room remembered. After reading Grandpa's journal, things got worse. The mirrors stopped just reflecting me. They started acting on their own. One morning, I was brushing my teeth. I looked in the bathroom mirror and raised my hand. My reflection did the same, only slower. It lagged behind, like it was thinking before it moved. I frowned and shook my head. "Not now," I muttered. Later, in the living room, I caught my reflection smiling, but I wasn't. I blinked. The smile stayed for a moment, then it vanished. I backed away, my heart beat faster that night. I woke up thirsty. I walked to the kitchen, passing the hallway mirror. I stopped in the mirror. I saw myself lying in bed, but I wasn't asleep. My eyes were wide open, watching me. I stared then. My reflection mouthed words. "You were supposed to stay." I blinked hard. The reflection froze, then matched my movements again. I shivered and walked away. Back in my room, I looked around. Every mirror showed a different version of me. In one, my eyes were black dot. In another, I was smiling, but it felt wrong dot. In another, I was crying. I touched the mirror closest to me. My reflection didn't move. It just stared, like it was alive. I whispered, "What do you want from me?" No answer, only silence, and a feeling I wasn't alone. The mirrors were watching, waiting that night. I couldn't stop thinking about the mirrors, about Grandpa's journal. I went to bed early, hoping to get some rest, but I didn't sleep well. I had a dream. Grandpa was there. His face was clear, like he was standing right in front of me. He looked tired and scared. He said, "Don't go too deep," I asked. "Grandpa, what do you mean?" He shook his head slowly. "The mirror room. It's older than this house. It's not just a room. It's a trap. It feeds on guilt, secrets, and identity." I felt cold. "What do you want me to do?" He looked me in the eyes. "Close it, before it's too late." Then he faded away. I woke up suddenly, heart pounding. The room was dark, but something caught my eye. Under my bed, there was a mirror, a small, cracked mirror. I didn't put it there. I pulled it out slowly. The glass was broken in one corner, but the cracks spread across the whole surface. I looked into it. My reflection stared back only this time. It wasn't me. The eyes were darker, empty. I dropped the mirror. It shattered on the floor, and in the shards, I saw something else. A face, not mine, watching me, waiting. I knew then, Grandpa's warning wasn't just about the house. It was about me, and the mirror room wasn't finished with me yet. I knew I had to go back to the mirror room. I needed answers. That door, the one at the end of the hall, was still there, even if I tried to pretend it wasn't. That night, I waited until the house was quiet. Then I crept down the hall. The door was open again, just like before. I stepped inside, mirrors all around me. But this time, one mirror was different. It was glowing, soft blue light coming from the glass. I reached out slowly. My hand touched the surface, and it wasn't solid. It went right through. I gasped before I could pull back. I fell forward through the mirror. I landed hard on a floor that felt like glass, but wasn't cold. I looked around. I was inside a place that looked like my house, but everything was wrong. The walls were reversed. The furniture was the same but faded, and the light was dim. I saw shadows moving in the corners, people or versions of people. Their eyes were empty. No life, just shells wandering the rooms. Then I heard crying, soft, broken sobs. I followed the sound in one room. I saw her, a younger me, little kid me, sitting on the floor, tears streaming down her face. She looked up and whispered, "Help me." I wanted to run to her, to hold her, but my feet didn't move. She reached out her hand, but it passed through me like I was a ghost. I shouted, "I'm here. I'm here." But the words felt empty. Then all the mirror people stopped. Their heads turned toward me. Their empty eyes stared. I felt a cold pressure, like the room was closing in. I forced myself to turn away and run back to the glowing mirror. I jumped through it, back into the real house, gasping for air, my heart pounding. I knew the mirror room wasn't just a room, it was a prison, and I was trapped in part of it whether I wanted to be or not. I was still shaking from falling through the mirror. But then I heard a voice, soft, low, clear. "You can leave." I looked around. No one there. "You can go home," it said, "but only if someone stays in your place." My heart stopped. I turned, slowly, and saw her, the younger me sitting on the cold floor, looking up with scared eyes. "Please, don't leave me here," she whispered. "Not again." I felt frozen. I wanted to say something, anything, but no words came out. "Don't do this," she said. Her voice cracked. "I'm all alone." Tears rolled down her cheeks. I screamed, "Grandpa," but only silence answered me. I looked around, wildly desperate. "Please," I said, choking on the words. "What do I do?" The voice came again. "Choose." I closed my eyes tight. I could feel the weight of the decision crushing me. If I left, she would be trapped. If I stayed, I didn't want to think about it. But I knew I had no choice. I took a deep breath and whispered, "I choose." Then everything went black. I woke up in my bed. Sunlight was coming through the window. For a moment, everything felt normal. I told myself it was over. The mirror room, the whispers, the locked door gone. I got up and walked to the bathroom. I stopped. In front of the mirror, I looked at myself. My reflection moved just like me. But then it hesitated. A tiny pause, a second too late. I blinked. My reflection smiled, but I wasn't smiling. I stared, frozen. The smile faded. I thought I was imagining things. I left the bathroom and went to the hallway. The wall was solid. No door, no mirror room. It never existed. But every mirror I passed, I saw it, a second pair of eyes, just for a moment, deep behind the glass, watching me, waiting. I don't know who they belong to or what they want, but I feel them always there, in every reflection, and I'm not sure if I'm free or if the mirror room is still holding me. That's my story. If you ever see something strange in a mirror, don't ignore it, because sometimes what's behind the glass isn't just a reflection, it's something else, watching, waiting. A missing person poster had my face on it. I'd never seen it before. It was taped to a street lamp. A missing person flyer. His name, his face. But he was right there, holding it in his own hands. Hi, I want to tell you about something strange that happened to me. It's not easy to explain, but I'll try. It all started on a normal day, just like any other. My name is Alex. I live in a small town where nothing much ever happens. I work at a little store downtown, and when I'm not working, I like to walk around my neighborhood. It's quiet. People say hello when they pass by. I like it that way. One afternoon, I finished my shift early. The sun was still up, so I decided to walk home instead of taking the bus. The streets looked normal. Kids playing in their yards, neighbors talking to each other. I waved to Mrs. Green, who was watering her plants. She smiled and said, "Nice day, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, it really is." I kept walking down Main Street, passing the bakery where I usually buy bread. I didn't go inside this time. I was in no rush, just enjoying the quiet dot as I walked. I noticed a small notice board near the park. It's the kind where people put up flyers and posters for lost pets or local events. I stopped to read some of the papers pinned there. There was a flyer about a garage sale, one about a lost dog, and then something else, a missing person poster. At first I didn't pay much attention. Then I saw the photo on the poster. It was a picture of me. I blinked and looked again. It was definitely me. Same face, same eyes, same hair. But I didn't remember seeing this poster before. It looked old, but the date said it was only from last week. I felt a cold wave run down my back. I touched the photo, careful not to tear it. The name under the photo was my full name, and the description said I had been missing for days. I whispered to myself, "This can't be real." I looked around to see if anyone was watching me. People were walking by, but no one seemed to notice the poster. No one stopped to read it. I took out my phone and tried to find any news about me being missing. Nothing showed up. No alerts, no messages, nothing. I showed the poster to a man sitting nearby on a bench. "Excuse me," I said. "Do you know anything about this?" He looked at me like I was crazy. "What do you mean? You look fine to me." I felt confused and scared. "There's a missing person poster with my face on it. It says I've been gone for days." He shook his head. "I've never seen that before." I kept staring at the poster. My heart was beating fast. I tried to remember if I had been somewhere I didn't know about, or if someone was playing a trick on me, but nothing came to mind. I pulled the poster off the board and folded it carefully. I had to get home and think. Walking back, I kept looking over my shoulder. Everything seemed normal, but inside, something didn't feel right. How could there be a missing person poster of me, and I was standing right here, alive? When I got home, I locked the door behind me. I sat down and stared at the poster again. The face looking back at me was mine, but I had no idea why it was there. I whispered, "Who put this up? And why?" I didn't have any answers, but I knew one thing for sure. My life was about to change, and I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't thinking about anything special that day. I just wanted to finish my errands and get back home. I walked down the street toward the corner store to grab some milk. I was tired and ready to relax. When I passed the old telephone pole near the bus stop, something caught my eye. There were a few papers pinned to it. Usually, it's stuff like lost dog posters or flyers for garage sales. I slowed down and looked. Closer, one of the papers was a missing person poster. I stopped and stared. The photo on it looked real. But then I felt my stomach drop. It was my face. I blinked and looked again. The photo was clear. Same hair, same eyes, same smile. I didn't even remember smiling, for the name under the photo was my full name. I swallowed hard. Double quotes. Wait. ... What? I whispered. My hands started to shake a little as I leaned in closer to read the rest of the paper. It said I was missing. It gave a date, just a few days ago. It said where I was last seen, right here, in this town. I looked around quickly. No one was near the pole. Just a couple of people passing by, not paying attention. I reached out and touched the corner of the poster, careful not to tear it. Who put this here? I asked no one. My mind raced. How could this be? I was standing right there. I hadn't been missing. I hadn't gone anywhere strange. I looked down the street toward the store. Maybe someone inside knew something. I walked over, still holding the edge of the poster. Inside the store, I tried to act normal. I told the clerk, "Hey, did you see this missing person poster?" She looked at me, confused. "Which one?" she said. "The one with my face on it," I said. She blinked, then shook her head. "No, I haven't seen anything like that." Showed her my phone, hoping she'd help me check the news or social media for anything about me. But there was nothing. No alerts, no messages, no news stories. I left the store feeling strange. I kept thinking, why have I never seen this before? Why doesn't anyone else know? Outside, I stopped again by the telephone pole. I touched the poster once more. Then I saw something else. On the bottom, there was a phone number. A number to call if you had information. I debated, should I call? Would someone answer? What if it was a trick? I pulled out my phone, my fingers shaking. I stared at the number for a moment. Then I pressed dial. The phone rang twice. Then someone answered, "Hello." A deep voice said, "Do you have information about the missing person?" I swallowed hard. "Yes, but I'm the person in the poster." There was silence. Then the voice said, "That can't be. We've been looking for you." "I'm right here," I said. "Where have you been?" the voice asked, sounding confused. "I haven't been anywhere," I said. "I don't understand." The line went dead. I dropped the phone into my pocket. My heart was pounding. What was going on? I looked back at the poster. It was still there, pinned to the pole, as real as ever. I felt like I was losing my mind. I looked around again. The streets seemed the same, but everything felt different. I started walking home fast. When I got to my door, I locked it behind me and sat down. I kept staring at the photo in my head. Why was I missing? Who made that poster? And how could no one else know about it? I couldn't stop asking myself those questions. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. After seeing that missing person poster with my face on it, I didn't want to believe what I'd just found. It had to be a joke or a mistake. Someone must be messing with me. That's what I told myself as I kept walking home. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. I decided to ask some people if they knew anything about it. The first person I saw was an old man sitting on his porch. I walked up to him and said, "Hey, have you seen a missing person poster with my face on it?" He looked at me like I was crazy. "No, son, never seen a thing like that." I nodded and walked away. Next, I saw a group of kids playing down the street. I stopped one and asked, "Did you guys see a missing person poster with me on it?" One kid frowned. "Nope, you're not missing. You're right here." I smiled weakly and kept walking. Still, the feeling that something was wrong didn't leave me. I decided to check my phone. I opened all the news apps and social media sites. I searched for my name, for missing person reports, anything. There was nothing, no news stories, no alerts, no posts, no warnings. It was like the poster was there, but nobody else knew about it. I called a few friends, trying to sound calm. "Hey, have you heard anything about a missing person poster with my face?" They all laughed. "No way, are you joking?" I said, "No, it's real. I saw it." They didn't believe me. Maybe they thought I was playing a prank. Or maybe they thought I was losing it. One friend said, "Maybe you just dreamed it." I didn't know what to say. I felt like I was the only one who could see the poster that night. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about it. What if someone made the poster to scare me? What if it was some kind of sick joke? Or maybe it was a mistake. I wanted to believe that. But then I started feeling watched, like someone was following me. I looked behind me several times when I went outside. I saw people glancing at me, then quickly looking away. Was it real, or was my mind playing tricks? I kept telling myself, "It's nothing, just ignore it." But the more I ignored it, the heavier the feeling grew. I tried to push the thought away. I told myself, maybe I'm overreacting. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next day, I went back to the spot where I saw the poster, but it was gone. The board was empty. I looked all around the neighborhood, no sign of the poster anywhere. I even asked the store clerk near the corner. She said, "No, I haven't seen anything like that." That made me even more confused. If the poster wasn't there anymore, then why did I see it yesterday? Was I losing my mind? I didn't want to think that, but I started to doubt everything. I thought maybe I had imagined the whole thing. Maybe I'd been so tired I saw things. I looked at myself in the mirror. I wanted to be sure I was real. Was I really here? Or was I just a ghost in someone else's story? I didn't have answers, but the feeling of being watched stayed with me. I checked my phone again. No messages, no calls, nothing. No calls, nothing. It was like I had disappeared, except I hadn't, at least. I didn't think so. The next day, I decided to ignore it, pretend everything was normal. But deep down, I knew the missing person poster was only the start. Something was coming, something I wasn't ready for, and it was watching me. After the missing person poster, things started to get strange. Not big, scary moments right away, just little things that didn't make sense. But they made me nervous. One afternoon, I was walking home from the store. I felt like someone was watching me. I looked around, but no one was there. Still, the feeling stayed. The next day, I was sitting at my kitchen table when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. I almost didn't answer, but I did. I said, "Hello." There was silence. No sounds, no breathing, just quiet. I waited a few seconds, then hung up. I thought maybe it was a wrong number, but then the phone rang again the next day. Same thing. No voice, just silence. Then I started getting texts from numbers I didn't know. One message said, "You're not who you think you are." Another said, "They're watching you." I didn't reply. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know who was sending these. I showed the messages to my friend Mia. She looked worried. "Do you want me to call the police?" she asked. I shook my head. "No, I don't think that will help." Mia said, "Maybe someone is playing a prank." "Maybe," I said, but I wasn't sure. That night, I looked out my window. I thought I saw a shadow moving outside. It wasn't a person. It was darker, like a shadow with no shape. I blinked, but it was still there. I closed the curtains fast. I didn't want to see anymore. The next morning, I went to the bathroom. When I looked in the mirror, I saw something strange. My reflection moved a little slower than I did. When I blinked, it didn't blink right away. I stared hard. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I was imagining things, but the feeling stayed. I started checking every room in my house. I looked behind doors and under tables. I wanted to find something wrong, something real. One day, when I was leaving the house, I noticed a man standing across the street. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the house. When he saw me, he quickly walked away. I wanted to call out, but I didn't. I didn't know who he was. That night, I had trouble sleeping. I kept hearing noises, soft footsteps outside my window, sometimes scratching sounds. I pulled the blanket over my head. I told myself it was just the house settling, but I wasn't sure anymore. The next morning, I got another text. It said, "Remember who you are." I didn't understand. I tried to think about my life, my memories, but some felt fuzzy, like they weren't mine. I started doubting myself. Was I really Alex? Or was I someone else? I didn't want to believe it. I decided to go for a walk. Maybe fresh air would help. As I walked, I saw my shadow on the sidewalk, but it looked wrong. It was longer than normal, and it moved a little behind me, not exactly matching my steps. I stopped. I looked around. No one was there. Felt cold, not from the weather. Something else. I started to run home. I didn't want to see my shadow again. When I got inside, I locked all the doors. I sat on the couch and tried to calm down. I told myself it was all in my head, but deep down, I knew something was very wrong. I didn't know what was happening to me, but I was scared, and I was alone. I couldn't just sit and wait. That missing person poster with my face was real. I needed answers. The next morning, I went to the police station. The building was quiet. I told the officer at the front desk, I found a missing person poster with my face on it. I want to know if there's a report about me. He looked confused. Your name? I told him my full name. He typed something into the computer and shook his head. No record of anyone missing with that name. I frowned. Are you sure? There's a poster. It says I was last seen here. He sighed. We don't have a missing person case matching you. If someone made a fake poster, we can't help unless you file a report. I nodded, but my stomach felt heavy. On my way home, I stopped by Mrs. Green's house. She's my neighbor, kind lady who always knows what's happening in town. I asked her, have you heard about anyone missing around here? Anyone with a name like mine? She shook her head. No, honey, I'm sorry. I told her about the poster. She looked worried, but said, maybe someone is playing a trick on you. I didn't want to believe that. Back home, I sat at my computer. I searched for my name on local news sites and online forums. I found a few people with names like mine, but none matched me exactly. One forum talked about a man who disappeared. in a nearby town years ago. The name was similar, but the photo looked different. I felt a chill. Could it be connected? Or was I just imagining things? I kept searching. The more I looked, the more confusing it became. There was a photo of a man who looked a lot like me, but with a different name. Another had the same name, but the face wasn't mine. I stared at the screen. Was someone else out there? Someone who looked like me? Or was I forgetting something? I tried to call my parents, but they didn't pick up. I sent messages to my friends, but no one replied. It felt like I was disappearing, piece by piece. I stood up and looked around my empty apartment. I felt alone, scared, like I was losing myself. I whispered, "Who am I really?" The missing person poster was still in my mind. It felt like a puzzle I couldn't solve. I didn't know what to believe anymore, but I knew one thing. I had to keep looking, because the truth was out there waiting. I didn't know who to trust anymore. The missing person poster, the strange messages, the weird phone calls, it all made me feel like I was losing my mind. I was trying to find answers, but everything just got darker. One evening, as I was walking down a quiet street, I felt someone watching me. I stopped and looked around. That's when I saw him, a man standing in the shadows near a street lamp. He didn't step forward. He just said, "You're looking for the truth." I swallowed hard. "Who are you?" He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Someone who knows what's really going on. I stepped back. "What do you mean? What's going on with that poster? Why does it have my face?" He nodded slowly. "You're not the only one with your face." "What?" I said, my heart racing. "There's another you, or maybe many others," he said. "People like you can disappear. They can be erased from the world. Their memories wiped clean, but their images stay behind." I shook my head, confused. "Don't understand." He looked at me, his eyes dark. "You're living someone else's life, or maybe they're living yours." The missing person poster, that was a warning. Someone or something wants you to know you're not who you think. Took a step back. "That's not possible. Look around you," he said quietly. "How many people remember you? How many know the real you? Maybe the real you is gone. Maybe you're just a copy, a shadow, a story someone forgot." I wanted to yell, to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. My hands trembled. "Why me?" I asked. "Why is this happening?" He shrugged. "I don't know. But if you want to survive, you need to find out who you really are, before it's too late." Then, before I could say anything else, he turned and disappeared into the night. I stood there, frozen. Everything I believed was breaking apart. Who was I? Was I real? Or just a ghost in someone else's life? I didn't have answers. Only fear and the feeling that the missing person poster was only the start. Something darker was coming, and it was waiting for me. I couldn't think straight anymore. Every day felt harder. The missing person poster, the strange calls, the man who talked about copies of MIT, all spun in my head like a storm. One night, I was sitting in my room when suddenly a memory came to me, but it wasn't my memory. It was like I was watching someone else live it. A place I didn't know. A person I didn't know. I tried to shake it off. "That's not real," I told myself. But the feeling stayed. Then I looked in the mirror. At first I saw myself, but then something changed. My reflection didn't move when I moved. It just stared, like it was alive on its own. I took a step back, scared. "Who are you?" I whispered. Reflection smiled, a slow, cold smile. I blinked. When I opened my eyes, it was just me again. But I wasn't sure. Was that real? Was I real? I touched my face. It felt real. But inside, I felt empty. My hands started shaking. I looked around the room, but everything felt strange, like I didn't belong there. Then a voice in my head whispered, "You're not who you think. You are." I covered my ears. "No, stop." The voice kept coming. It said things I didn't want to hear. Things about being lost, about being forgotten. I dropped to my knees. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I felt like I was breaking, like I was falling apart inside. I looked back at the mirror. This time, my reflection moved first. It raised a hand, and I couldn't stop mine from copying it. The smile came again. I shouted, "Stop," but it just laughed. I ran away from the mirror, but it felt like the reflection followed me in my head. The voice kept whispering, "Who are you? Who are you really?" I didn't have an answer. I didn't know anymore. All I knew was that something inside me was gone, and the person staring back at me in the mirror wasn't me, or maybe it was. But I was lost, and I was scared. I was desperate to prove I was real. After everything that happened, I needed someone to believe. Me, my friends, my family. But that's when things got worse. I went to my best friend's house. I knocked on the door and waited. When she opened, I said, "Hey, it's me. Can we talk?" She looked at me like I was a stranger. "Do I know you?" she asked, her voice cold. I blinked. "What? Of course you do. I'm Alex, your friend." She shook her head. "No, I don't remember you. You must be confused." I felt my throat close up. "You don't remember me. We've known each other for years." She looked uncomfortable and shut the door slowly. I stood there stunned. That was my best friend. But she acted like I was invisible. I tried calling my family next. When I called my mum, she didn't answer. I left a message, but no reply. The next day, I went to see my parents in person. They looked at me with strange eyes. My dad said, "Who are you?" "We don't know anyone named Alex." I shook my head. "I'm your son. Please, you have to believe me." My mom stepped back and whispered, "You need help." I felt tears coming. How could they not know me? I started to check my phone again. I looked at my contacts, photos, messages. Everything was gone, like my life was deleted. Then I searched my name online. The missing person poster was everywhere now, on every website, every bulletin board. But there was no proof I was alive. I tried to explain this to people I met on the street. Some looked scared, others ignored me. A few even walked away quickly. Was disappearing, not just from their memories, but from the world. It was like I was fading, and only that missing person poster stayed. I sat down on a bench and looked around. No one noticed me. No one cared. I whispered to myself, "Where did I go?" I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. Was I still here, or was I just a face on a poster? I didn't know anymore. All I knew was I was vanishing and no one could save me. I don't know how long this has been going on. Days, weeks. It all feels the same now. People don't see me anymore. Friends, family, even strangers, they act like I'm not there. When I speak, it's like I'm talking to the air. No one answers. No one hears me. Yesterday, I walked past my old neighbor's house. I waved. She looked right at me but didn't blink. It was like I was invisible. I tried calling out to her, but no sound came out. I went home and looked in the mirror. My face was there, but it didn't feel like mine. It felt empty, like a mask. I keep thinking, maybe I was never real. Maybe I was always just a shadow. Or maybe I'm stuck somewhere in between, neither here nor gone. I remember the missing person poster with my face on it. Maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was a warning. Maybe I'm the missing person now. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know if I will ever be found. All I know is I'm alone, lost in a place where no one can see me. I'm here, but I'm not. And that's the scariest thing of all. I was walking home late one evening. The street was quiet. That's when I saw a missing person poster pinned to a telephone pole. I stopped and looked. The photo on the poster was a young man's face. It looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. The name was written clearly underneath. It was a name I didn't know, but the photo, the face, stayed in my mind. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. I wanted to show someone, but no one was around. I looked around, then looked back at the poster. It seemed old, like it had been there for days, but no one ever took it down. I wondered about the missing person. Who was he? Where did he go? I felt a chill run down my spine, like something wasn't right. What if the person in the photo was still out there, lost somewhere? Or what if he was right here, but no one could see him? I tore my eyes away and kept walking, but the face haunted me all the way home. The poster stayed on that pole, waiting for the next person to notice. And maybe the next person wouldn't be so lucky.